in a budget workshop meeting of Commissioners Court of Grimes County. We've called the meeting to order. We're now going to move to agenda item number 2. We're going to discuss and review the Grimes County FY 2019 budget request and employee performance evaluations. Not in its completeness, but this is the start of the hearings. All of the commissioners are accounted for? Okay.
Good morning, or good afternoon. I've been tied up in a meeting, looks like a long continuation of meetings today. I'd just like to say thank you for giving us the opportunity, once again, for doing our budget report, go through. I understand this clarification, this is kind of quick down the dirt overview, or?
This is an overview. We're not going to agree or disagree with anything you say today. We want you to inform us as much as you possibly can, and particularly on changes where you're going up or going down from last year's budget. And just as much as you can, share your insight as to why y'all are requesting to do what you want to do, need to do.
On the, I believe each of y'all should have a packet. Obviously, the first couple of pages are the questionnaire form that you sent out. So that we submitted a budget summary, basically a budget total, where it's listing just a summary, the items, what we're looking at as far as where we're increasing, and give some explanation of why for both the jail and the sheriff's office. Also in the packet, there's some information concerning salary totals. You know, it gives some spreadsheets on both departments from the 3% to 5% thing. Obviously, refer this to the court as far as what the court decides, you know, where to go on salary issues, but we would like to request some salary information. We did also include the request for some additional personnel. There's a breakdown of those costs, some justification for the dispatch costs there, and also some more worksheets. As y'all turn to the sheriff's office, 451 side, the 2000, 2018, 2019 budget total. As we look, obviously the first item that we're discussing here is salaries. You know, as we've done in years past, we've done salary surveys. We do kind of rank fairly low on the table, especially around our surrounding areas.
Are you looking at, I'm sorry, are you looking at your page 4 of 8?
The summary page that we're going to.
The summary page, okay.
Now, Chief, you said that you supplied us information last year as far as what the surrounding officers made surrounding the county. I don't think we all have that information. Can you kind of give us a lowest and a highest maybe?
Actually, I don't have that file attached.
Okay.
No, I don't have that. Well, we can get that file.
Okay,
Sure.
not a problem.
But we are requesting salaries. I know we've been working with the court, so we're just trying to get our salaries up to comparison level. We do look at the area around us, particularly just because those are the areas that we're competing. You know, with the same pool of applicants, we're competing with those. Not competing with counties 200 miles away, we're competing in this area pool here. And we predict that it's going to get a little tighter. Obviously, the unemployment rate is getting lower, so it's starting to shrink things up. Private sector is going to be coming out. Obviously, the private sector are offering more money. And with the oil prices going up, they're almost reaching close to $80 a barrel right now. So that's going to open up back into the oil field expansion. And typically, we always see a drop when the oil field jobs come back. A lot of people start running back out to the oil field jobs to make more money. So we're looking at that and come out with. As far as line item request, the first one, obviously, we're looking at line item 305, which is office supplies. we're looking at to raise that additional $185, just to cover some more expenses that we have in operating supplies. Our next one is.
Before you leave that one, and I know we're talking about a big ticket of $185, but did y'all take into consideration, and auditors help me with this, but did y'all take into consideration with our IT group that they would be buying printer cartridges and things of that sort? And I don't know if that's in your office supplies or if you were aware of that.
Yes, we are, but don't we receive ours already for the maintenance?
He's talking about the individual printers.
Yeah, I'm talking about your desk printers and things of that sort. One of the things that we're seeing a huge benefit on is bulk purchasing, plus Greg Cannon has found a cartridge supplier that, I mean, goodness, he's gone to some cartridges that were $100 and $150 each. He's able to buy them for $25 to $30 in one department. What was the number? 16,000. One over in the DA's office, because they go through a lot of them. But he's got a source to buy them, and he's going to save that one department $16,000 in cartridge expense, which is a huge gain. So I don't mean to derail y'all,
Well,
but
I guess, we didn't factor that one in, so, I guess we can forget about the $185 we're asking.
well, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but I mean, but now that we're having that benefit, if y'all haven't talked to him or he hasn't talked to you, we need to have some conversation, and maybe you could visit with him between now and whenever. And I don't know how much of your office supplies is dedicated to cartridge replacement.
It's, as required.
Yeah.
And,
But see, most of our printing, we print on our big machines.
So
Some
your
offices-
copiers.
Yes,
And those are
some of
still
our
a
offices
lease.
have some smaller printers,
yeah.
but they're not used.
Okay. See, I don't have a big
Yeah.
usage of cartridges.
Correct. You know,
Okay.
we spend most of our time, most of our jail, dispatch, CID, and our patrol division all have big copier printers
Yeah.
that we use.
Okay. Well, just
And
be
those are
aware
still-
that we have that opportunity, and I would encourage, if you can take advantage of it, take
Oh,
advantage of it.
We definitely will.
Okay.
The next one we're actually looking at is 451-412, which is repairs and maintenance of our vehicles. And what we're seeing obviously is the increase, the vehicle repair cost has gone up. And also the ability of the local shops to be able to do the work that we need to get done on the vehicles. So we're having to bring a lot of those vehicles out to some dealerships around this area. Sometimes our Navasota dealership can't complete all the jobs either, and we have to take them in the grind to the maintenance service there to get it done. And Captain Butler's gonna explain a little bit more on that aspect of it.
A lot of problems we're finding with some of these newer vehicles, the techs in Navasota just aren't up to the speed on that, don't have the certification. So we have to go to the dealerships there in Brazos County, plus their turnaround, because we could drop one thing off there and get it back in 2 days, where Navasota would take almost a month. We've had that done before.
Yeah, that's not good.
They don't stock near as many parts in Navasota as well as they do up there in Bryan College Station, so it's just been a lot quicker turnaround as well.
Is this more on the Ford side or the Sterling side?
Dodge, Ford, Chevy. Chevys are a nightmare trying to get away from those, but Dodge and Ford.
'Cause Sterling handles everything except for the Fords, right? Vivaldi, or Team.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Team
And then
takes care of
the
the
Ford
Ford.
house up there on 6.
Okay.
Yeah, and we just started recently moving to the Fords, so we're trying them right now. The Dodges we're working out, but there's some space limitations that we're looking at, so that's why we moved to the Fords. And from what we gathered from other departments that use them, they're supposed to be a little more reliable, so we're hoping that works out.
And knock on wood, they've done well so far, so.
It's-
But That's one of the other big issues, though, is the turnaround time of getting it back out on the street.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I understand they can't, I guess, pay their mechanics here like they can up there. So, I guess they can't hire as good mechanics with all the certifications like they can up there in Brazos County.
Okay.
So that increase is an additional $8,000, $8,140. Looking at. Next line item is 451,505, which would be machinery and equipment. And part of that, and I'll go just in detail, and I'll have Captain Rutledge finish explaining this, is obviously vehicles get more expensive. They price every year goes up on them, and then we're looking at the actual equipment in them, and the more advanced this equipment that we have to put in them costs more each year to fully outfit them right. And plus, part of that situation too is we're looking at some of the 700, 800 radios we got. You know, they're pretty much end of life and not being fully supported anymore now. So we have to look at a replacement plan ahead of time to change some of those radios out, so we don't get in a situation where we lose 20 of them at one time and have to turn around and buy 20. At least we can start outphasing some of those radios. Those radios we used to get us going and up and running, and then this is to change those out and start getting some new ones in as we buy new vehicles each year, to kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit. We are looking at several vehicle replacements that we're having to do, not only just patrol cars, but the diversion crew, the cars for the SRO, the school officers, and all. We have a situation where we're looking at actually possibly buying some used vehicles from a place that we had bought previously before, for some of our less demanding ones, like for the 2 school officers. Looking at doing something like that, there will be obviously a lot less cost burden than buying brand new vehicles. So,
And just to be clear, you're asking for 4 new vehicles, and then how many used?
well, what we think we should be able to do on SROs is actually, we're about to hold an auction, so we think the proceeds from that are gonna cover the vehicles that we're gonna buy for SROs.
Okay, but the
And the diversion truck that we're gonna be replacing, we're actually gonna be buying with funds coming out from the inmate contract that we.
Right, anything I can't cover, the revenue that we generated by housing other inmates is gonna go to update our diversion unit. They're at the point that we can't even put them out. Our truck is a 2004, it's done, so we're trying to scrape enough money to, we've already ordered it, we're gonna find a way to pay for it. It's just gonna be.
in this budget?
For the rest of this year, yes ma'am.
Okay,
I've
so,
already talked to Jesse, we have money set there that we haven't used for this entire year from building other counties, and we're gonna have to, anything we can't cover, we're gonna roll that money that I was saving it for training. Our training is going all out, we're getting a lot of free training offered to us, so I'm gonna use that money to help cover the cost of our diversion unit, one-time four-wheel drive truck.
so should we remove this one truck?
Well, we listed, these are all the vehicles that we're planning on buying. The actual new vehicles we're buying are just gonna be 4 now. We are buying, well, this truck's not included in the cost figure.
Okay, but you
That's
talked
the
about it
restriction.
as far as
Yeah,
being in this
we're
budget, so what
explaining-
I'm saying is, should we remove it from even being considered in this budget?
We're
If
just
you-
giving you an update that we're already buying this one, so the truck is not in the actual budget numbers.
Okay.
Okay, so what
The
you're
truck's
proposing
not
for
in the budget
19?
numbers,
Okay,
and the 2 SRO cars aren't in the budget numbers.
Okay.
We're just
Okay.
buying, you know, that, these are the number of vehicles that we need. We're giving information that we're taking care of these 3 through alternative means, and we're needing 4 to actual money in the budget. Now, we do have money in this line item already for vehicles, so the actual increase is $34,000. We have looked at the radios. The radio system is on Harris County radio system. They kind of manage what units, what vendors actually come on the system. It's all been Motorola. They just recently allowed Kenwood to come on. So we're looking at comparing the cost, and there's a substantial cost difference. We are demoing some of the radios right now. Excuse me. To make sure that they're equivalent to the Motorola's. Right, yeah, I mean,
That's pretty much covered it.
Okay, so 4 new vehicles, 1 used vehicle. Right?
no, it'd be 4 new vehicles total. 3 of them would be patrol, and 1 would be for criminal investigations.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, the other ones you're talking about, the 2 used for the SROs, and then the truck for the diversion come out of this current budget that we're in now.
Okay.
Just so that I'm clear, when you said, in your data sheet here, it says 31,000 something per vehicle, and then another 10,000 plus to trick it out for your usage.
Yeah, and that's the light bars, the sirens, the
41.8.
computers, the video cameras,
Yep.
you know,
The
body
cages.
cams, the radios.
And
But by
then,
the time you spend all that, you're ready to roll.
Yeah, and then when we're talking the radios, it's, we're talking a radio for the vehicle and then the radio for the officer also,
Okay.
the portable and the mobile radio.
and then, out of the IT budget, he's buying the
That
computers,
is,
right?
yes, that is right.
Okay.
It's like giving the IT the specs on the car computers.
Okay, oh, is there computers listed here?
No, it's in the IT budget.
Okay.
And you're just adding 1 additional deputy, is that what I understand?
Yes, on our personnel,
Yes.
yeah, total personnel, we're asking for a deputy,
And 2 dispatchers.
and 2 dispatchers, that we'll talk about in just a second, obviously. Priority ranking for this year is gonna be for the dispatch center. And then, deputy will be next. Is there any more comments y'all have, 451?
Question real quick. How much were your radios a piece, approximately?
I need to go.
Yeah, let me fix those numbers. Those for here's the.
Okay, the Motorola radios,
Yes.
run roughly $3,285.
$3,285.
Yes,
And
and
how
that's the portable one, and then the mobile radio is $3,460.
$460
$3,460.
mobile. So how many portables and how many mobiles were you looking at purchasing for next fiscal year?
30,
3 each?
yes.
Okay, so,
And then on the Kenwood, of course, the vast difference.
what is the what?
The Kenwood radios, the portable radios they're actually having a special right now. $23.84. And then the mobile will be, depending on what model we get, will be $23.65 or $3,600.
So do you have the money in your budget to do it now? This year? If
We'll
you
have to
get
wait
that-
till close to the end of the year to see what funds are left over.
Okay, so your portable is about 10 grand, right? And then for the 3, if you use a higher number, because let's just say you have to end up waiting. So times 3 is, so they're both 10. Okay, so that's 20 grand. So your vehicles are approximately 42,000, right? Being completed.
41.8.
Being completed, right. So, and you need 4 of those.
That'd be a hundred and
Yes, that's
sixty-seven,
one
200.
sixty-eight, right, approximately 168. And then you have 20 for the radios, right? That's 188. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, Todd, is where does the 246 come into play? And I'm because it's 168 for the vehicles, 20 for the radios. So I'm just asking,
Well,
am I missing something?
machinery and equipment covers more than just vehicles.
It does. I just didn't know if there was about how much do you normally. So we're at 168, 1, 2, 3.
Well, there's something else that wasn't mentioned, that machinery and equipment covers jail, transport, court, all of my vehicles too.
Yes, and were you
So
gonna-
there's more vehicles than what you're seeing, just not patrol, they do all of ours too.
So are you requesting some vehicles for jail?
No, we've already got them paid for this year.
Okay, but for next year you don't
But we
need any.
still gotta outfit them, so that could be some of the costs you're seeing on Brian's, because we still got vehicles when they get here that have to be outfitted.
Okay, so
It won't be on patrol.
yeah, I'm just trying to. I mean, because that ends up.
You're
being-
trying to come up to the 246.
Well, I
Yeah.
understand machinery and equipment. You're going to need extra things throughout the year. I understand that. I just didn't know exactly.
Because machinery and equipment will
Big-
covers everything else that we find. Lieutenant Cook is one more.
Yeah, I hate to put you on the spot, Dave.
Yeah,
Because
but, yeah, I don't have the ability to run that line item,
machinery and equipment stores.
the way you guys can, you know, and,
Right. Well, like
I
since.
mean, I could get,
Yeah, because since the IT department's taking over your computers, they're gonna be purchasing your computers and they're gonna be purchasing your copiers and everything. I just wanna make sure, and I'm not trying to take money away by any means, I just wanna make sure everyone's on the same page with the new quote.
but there is a lot, other than IT equipment that goes into, I can't think of a whole lot of IT equipment that goes into that 505 line item.
Okay.
We just wanna make sure we're not duplicate budgeting, so we have, you know.
Right.
Well, y'all can also look, commissioners, on that sheet I gave you with the multiple pages. You can see that for the 5-year average of 13/3/17, they averaged $212,974.95 a year on machinery and equipment. So,
So you didn't include the computers in this one.
I remember, just the cost of equipment patrol unit, I think it was 2, 3 years ago, it was at the 8,000. It was at the 8,000 mark, and, it's what it is today, 2019.
Sure.
Technology changes and just the cost of doing business, of course, changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, when you got your tailgate stolen off your truck, it used to cost $400 to replace it. Now some of them are $4,000 to
It's got
replace.
the camera, your backup camera and everything in it, you know, it's not the same beast anymore.
So if y'all would stop tailgate theft, would that be appreciated?
you said earlier that crimes was down, what's going on?
Yeah, which one is it?
It depends on what you're looking at.
Okay, so your last line, you said budget summary is $95,034.48 with no salary increase. That's the total. Is that
Correct.
including deputies and that's
Yeah,
new
that's-
positions included in that amount?
Correct, that's including the
Additional
deputy
staff.
position, office supplies, vehicle maintenance, and the, machine equipment.
So is that just the deputy in this one, not the dispatcher?
Correct, that's just deputy.
Okay.
that's the bulk of the.
I don't have any other questions. Now, Jesse, while we're here, the ones you have highlighted in yellow on the budget request forms we talked about are merit
This year's merit, so.
this past year, this year.
This year we're in.
That we're in.
Mhm. That's the merit.
Mhm.
So you see on 451, you have the little number written up at the top highlighted in yellow, the 680, 640, 748, 80, 249, 60. All of those add up to the 12,480, which is out of line item 171.
Okay,
And then the pink, I didn't even attempt to do that. They
Okay.
built their spreadsheet, so you can look at their spreadsheet and see what it is they're requesting.
okay.
And then we will review those numbers I will review it with Todd as well. Okay.
Yeah, my question was it selective officers that received merit raises last year? Or
No.
how did the merit go?
No, it was,
Across the board.
It was
Well,
cross-
well,
Was
it's
based on
not
certification.
because we have different salary breakdowns versus where you fall as far as, so we got different steps as far as if you have experience, how much experience you got, and stuff like that. So when we do our raises, those steps increase.
page 7 of 8. You can look at page 7 of 8 on their spreadsheet. At the bottom, they have their own salary pay scale, like Todd was saying. And so the judge decided, and Commissioner's Court at that time, decided to approve an increase on their scale. At the very bottom, it tells you deputies 1 to 4 years, 1761 to, and if they had a 10-year, then it was 1881.
Yeah, I believe that was to get it kinda a little bit closer to what the average is around the area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Because I think at the time we were losing, they would get trained
Losing,
here
yeah,
that
and
were
go
active and
somewhere
then kind of
else.
move to a higher pay.
What has been your turnover this year?
Well, it is, we just had 2 leave.
These are deputies?
Yes. Yeah, so both
One
of those.
went to DPS, one went to another agency.
And then,
Well, there's no competing with
position that we
DPS.
were
No.
granted, the new position actually that we were granted for this year, took 6 months to fill it. And we had it filled because we have sent one to the academy, and we went ahead and filled it with that person, because we couldn't get a qualified applicant in.
Well, with this, I guess one we gave last year, does that kinda get closer to the starting salary of what was, City of Navasota was even beating us, I think, on a lot of that stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We're closer, or are we almost there yet? Are we to actually compete even with the City of Navasota?
We're still behind.
We're still behind, okay. Well, this request, I guess, is it to bump all those up, of another 12,521, is that what it is?
Yeah, it'll get us a lot
Get us a
closer.
little closer?
Yes.
Okay.
We didn't, you requested the 3 and the 5 last year as well, and we didn't even get up to the 3% increase last year. It was only
1 point
1.2
something,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Mhm. Just for everybody.
And this 12 is that the 3% that you've written down here? Next to the pink?
12,521.08, that was only the one like, we were only able, with the decrease in the revenues, we had it at, I believe, the 3% at one point, or at least 2.
Okay, this is that 1 point.
This is the
something
1
percent that we
point,
did.
yes,
Okay.
sir. We had to.
So the 3% will be in the
12,480 was the
$36,000
one.
range?
The 12,521 was the 1%, but they only used the 12,480. Yes. And that could also have to do with turnover, like the people we had budgeted in there at the time, if they were making more and they left, and the person who came in, they would have been brought in at a different rate, and so that's all that would have.
So within the sheriff's office, are y'all giving merit increases, or are you giving,
How many
It's
years?
the scale, it's the scale. We changed the scale and where the employee falls in the scale, it's the salary.
Yeah,
But
that
I
was set
guess-
up before we even did the salary structure. They already had their salary structures based on certifications and years of experience.
Just so,
I mean, it,
I guess I'm trying to simplify it when I say, did everybody get an increase?
yes, yeah. 'Cause it-
It's the same as if we were to give a cost of living raise,
Okay.
potentially,
Spreadsheet, and then you can see the qualifiers for the,
except theirs is a pay scale.
how many years of service they
And there were different
This
percentages
information
added to
here,
each of the
right?
pay scales, I think, if I remember right.
have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we changed
depending
that
on-
pay
yeah.
scale.
It wasn't everybody got a certain percentage, it was some got more than others, and I think.
But they got,
So, but it was the scale itself is what raised, yeah.
Right.
the whole scale moved up.
Yes, which
Okay.
in turn
So you-
covered.
very necessarily start somebody at more than 1761 because they bring those qualifications with them, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
So, on the budget summary here that you provided, the 3% and the 5%, is that an increase to the scale? Versus a 3%?
Across the
Across
board,
the board.
right, it's
Okay.
on a scale basis. So if they were at 1561, it's 3% of that, right? If they were at 17, it would have been 3% of the 17.
Yes, the scale
The scale.
changes, so,
Or 1761.
Is there a way we could complicate this just a little bit more? I'm sorry.
we're open for suggestions.
It's been running smoothly the way it has been going.
Right. That's the, usually, the vast majority, because when we came up with the scale, most, a lot of agencies around us do stuff similar based on years of experience they have on patrol, and then they break it down to different supervisor levels and certificate levels and stuff like that, so.
So just so I understand, this at the bottom, the graph at the bottom of page 7 of 8. The first scale from the 1761 to the 1881, that was last year, that was current?
That's this current year.
That's this current year, okay.
So the 1881
18
was 10-year, it doesn't go from,
Okay, this
Not
is
like a-
10-year, okay.
yes. So instead of that, those people who are at that range of 1761, if you were to approve at 3%, they would now, that rate would be 18.14.
All right, why do we have tenure in 1 to 4 years when tenure's paid at 10 years?
Because if they could be with the county, from my understanding, correct me Todd if I'm wrong, they could be with the county but
We
switch
can have an
positions.
employee, now, are you just talking about the separate tenure?
The 1881.
Or why we have it broke down?
We as a
into-
county, if somebody's here 10 years or longer, we benefit them by paying them $1.20 per hour
Correct.
for that tenure. And I'm looking here at the scale, and it's just confusing. We got them 1 to 4 years, but you got 2 rates.
in that
Yes,
position.
because a person could have only 1 to 4 years in that position, but be a 10-year employee with the county.
Okay.
So I could have somebody, and we've run into this situation several times before, and that's why actually we decided to go ahead and break it out, because you have somebody that's worked in the jail 3 or 4 years and became a deputy, and then became an investigator, and they have 10 years of experience, and theoretically, they're making more money, and they only been an investigator for a year,
Mhm.
but if you just left them with that 10-year notice, then they're making more money than the investigator who's been there for 8 years in that position. So that's why we broke it out separately for that. They still get the money, it's just, and they only get it when they hit their 10 years, it's just where that on their pay scale.
Okay.
It's the way we did it, so we wouldn't,
So it's broke up so people don't get mad
Yeah,
about
cause then,
making
if
move.
people leapfrog other people, then we gotta come back, well, we gotta give this guy more money because this guy's making more
I
than
get it.
him and he's got more experience in this position than that one. So we tried to break it out and make it a little more simple.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't make it simple, but it
Well, it makes it,
makes it a
I
little more fair.
understand why you would have it that way. Did you get your question answered, Commissioner?
I did. Mhm.
Is there any more questions for now?
There probably is, I just gotta figure out what it is.
We're open 24/7, so.
All right. You ready for jail?
So,
So we just go.
I know this has already been asked and answered, I'm gonna ask it again. On the 451 budget summary, if all specific budget line item requests are granted by the court, the increase to the budget for 2018-19 will be a total of 138. To
That's
in-
if there was a 3% raise.
Sir,
That's if it was a 3% raise.
to include
Yes.
salary increase of 3%. That 3% is added to the beginning rate for all positions, or everybody gets a 3%?
It's added to the scale, so we will change the 1 to 4, to 5 to 9, 10 plus, the sergeant scale, the investigative scale, the jail scale.
But instead of it being 1761, it'd be 3% more than the 1761?
Right.
Yes.
And then anybody that wasn't at that new rate would automatically be bumped to it, but anybody that's already over that rate would not necessarily get an increase.
There shouldn't be.
Yes, if they're making more than they're in that the wrong scale, then, or if they're in that
Right.
scale making more, then they will stay where
About
they're
the
at.
only person.
Okay, so there's no range in that 1 to 4, it's a flat rate?
Yes,
Yes,
right,
yes,
there is no
yes.
range.
So the only issue we've ever run into that was with Travis Huey, because he's been here almost 30 years, and back in the 90s, their stuff was a little different, so he's always been a tad bit off.
Okay.
But other than him, it's been pretty much.
So we're, in the rest of the salary structure, we have a 20% from the bottom to the top of a range. There's no,
No, there is no
it's,
range.
it's 761 flat.
1761 flat, yes.
Okay, I understand.
And theirs is
now.
more set with
Their
an actual
range-
scale based on certifications
Their
and-
years,
Okay.
right.
and years' experience.
That's
so-
their range is,
And that's more, more in tune with the other law enforcement agencies around, and so it compare
Okay.
apples to apples to that.
So then the fact remains, if we gave it 3%, then everybody in that 1 to 4,
you have to budget for the increase. And
Yeah.
so we take, Todd and I will sit down and take everybody's rate and we'll go over it and make sure, okay, this is how much we'll need to budget for them.
and if we gave them a 3%, it's some portion of that 138,000. And if we gave them a 5%, it's some portion of that 161,000, but it's not that full amount.
Are you reading in their summary?
I'm reading on page 3 of 8.
Page 3 or
Um,
Page 3.
It says page 3 of 8, budget summary,
Oh, you must have done
Okay.
454.
No, it's down at the bottom.
451, budget summary.
I'm seeing.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes, provided that all the rates agree with all the rates we have in our system.
Sure.
And I think yes, we still need to verify on those rates.
Do we know how much of that 138,000 would be attributed to salary increases? Is that what you have to calculate out?
It'd be the full
Well,
130.
roughly
It'd be the full
95, roughly, well,
He said-
roughly 95,000 is increased with no salary raise. So 95,000 and $34.48.
So it's around 40, it's around 40,000.
To the increases in the budget line items, and the salaries will be
Okay.
left over, so we're talking 43,000
Right.
for the 3%.
So can you say that again? What did you?
The 95,000 is the budget increases for the line items.
But it
So,
included a
that's
deputy,
salary
it
increase.
included a deputy,
That's
so
without
you
any
need
salary
to take out that
increases.
52,709
So
That would actually be the
the number
budget
should have been-
increase
95 should come first.
without
31.
officers or salary.
So about 43,280
Yes,
with 3% and,
This is, they were saying is, so
67.
subtract this from
Yeah,
this.
67.
3%,
Almost.
which would be 44,000.
65,
5%.
640, or 670.
For the 5%.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's your recommendation?
What's my recommendation?
Well, I mean, you have a responsibility to spend the taxpayer dollars like we do. What's your recommendation?
As far as salaries?
Yeah.
I think anywhere, any recommendation of salaries we can give, we will gladly accept and take. We understand it's a, you know, money's tight and everybody has to, make the dollar stretch for all the departments, so we are, obviously will be appreciative of anything that comes.
Well, and I understand that. It just, you know, there's a cost associated with turnover. And if you start leaving, you start having folks leave, what is your cost of replacement, training, et cetera, inefficiencies, learning the system? You know, would you lose 3 deputies, if you lose 5 deputies, is the cost of that turnover more than $43,000? You know, so,
Yes, but
And
we also
also-
don't know, but
And
we
I'm-
don't
and I'm
have
not
all the
try-
factors either, because I don't know the total revenues coming in and stuff like that.
The
Yes,
biggest
it
thing on this
is.
liability, rookies coming here to get stepping stone, which is what I get in the jail all the time, we have 2 for the last 2 weeks. Bucky's is paying a little bit more starting out than I know. I've got a lot of millennials who honestly don't know anything about anything. I had one that got stabbed with a dirty needle last week, should have saw it coming, didn't have a clue it was about to happen. These are things that, it's a huge liability on the county as a whole. If someone dies, there's a huge liability, because they don't know what they're doing. The average time on my night shifts is less than a year experience. The day shifts is a little bit more, but that's not enough time to learn how to supervise violent adults. And if they keep leaving, we're always gonna be there. And I think patrol is very similar. If you don't have experience, there's something gonna get bombed sooner or later, and it's gonna cost someone somewhere.
well, and I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, and I'm not trying to give away the county's treasury. But, you know, if there's a necessity for giving a 3% so that we can maintain the talent that we have or attract new talent, or is it gonna take 5%? I think that's something that we strongly need to consider, it doesn't make sense to save 10 cents today and spend $1 tomorrow, I guess is the
It
way I would
costs
say
you
it.
a lot of money to bring a new one in. They have to be certified, we have to pay overtime to cover shifts.
Do you have a dollar amount that costs?
Come on up.
I'm sorry?
Equipment, everything, I have to work it up, I don't have it with me, but it's definitely a cost, for sure. Not to mention, we're hiring inexperienced high school kids who know nothing, or young millennials who know nothing. And we get a lot of that.
Well, I would just say that I think it would help us in the court in our decision-making, you know, if you can validate some of those costs or give us something to look at, it would be helpful in us making our decisions, you know. Do we give it to you? Do we not give it to you? Do we give it to, well, we don't have to say so in the auditing department, but do we give it to Road and Bridge? Do we not give it to, you know, where are we gonna get the best return on the dollars that we spend, whether it's on equipment, whether it's on people?
And like Caswell was saying, on patrol, when you're sitting there training somebody brand new with no experience throughout the academy, they're riding with another deputy for 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
Learning how to be a cop.
You got a
That's
2 for 1.
basically, you're paying 2 people to sit there riding that same car to go out, answer calls of service, you know, patrolling neighborhoods, traffic stops, all the stuff that they do. So there is a lot of cost associated with training somebody up to get them ready to get in their own car. So see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a $40,000 salary for, you know, training for 6 months, there's 20 grand right there, so.
Well, don't you think
We
this
could-
is a
I
good
hope they're
Plus
not
benefits.
lead into
Huh?
the
Yeah.
jails?
I hope
Cause
they
we're
could afford it.
15
Yeah.
minutes late on the jail portion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We could,
I thought we had you guys till 2 o'clock.
You do, but
Do,
you
but
had
not the
jail,
jail.
at- you haven't did
Oh,
a
we still
jail.
gotta listen to Lieutenant Kaiser?
Yes.
And then we still have courthouse security, so we need to make.
I think too,
We're gonna
it'd be
stay on
beneficial to
track.
maybe have like Navasota start them side, cause that's a direct competitor, I think,
yeah,
right?
we'll,
Get
we'll-
their
we'll
kinda,
get something together.
pay
and
scale.
arrange it.
and show where we can at least reach.
We've
that
tried
minimum.
to do that for the last 3 years, but also, when people come to us, when we get through with the budget and we give y'all a raise, they start complaining to us, and we can tell them, you know, this is what we're losing every year. We're losing money by having to
we can show these
retrain these
numbers.
people, and justifies us doing that. Because if we give y'all a raise again, we're gonna hear about it. We're gonna hear about it from county employees, we're gonna hear about it from the public. And it makes it a lot easier for us to justify that, and I think we've worked on it for the last 3 years, and we need to try to get it up there where we're not losing those people.
Commissioner, the one thing you can't put a price tag on, it happened in Austin, I mean, it happened in Truett, and it happened down the road in Waller County, inexperiences
Yeah.
of people dying, my environment.
Mhm.
And that's also how you make the news, when you underpay people and have the wrong ones to fill a spot. We've done that recently too, and you can't put a price tag on that.
So you all will provide us the information that you provided, you said last year.
Yeah,
and-
we'll put something together and, get that to you all next week.
Please, thank you.
Lieutenant,
Sheree?
did you have to come up?
It won't take me long.
Okay.
Sheree, through these hearings, will you be bold and say, you know, if we're supposed to be in jail time, tell us that we're supposed to be in jail time? Will you help keep track of that, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mine will be
Be glad to interrupt you.
Okay. Sure. You got 2 of them, Matthew?
No.
I mean, do you understand where we're coming from?
Exactly, yes.
So if we're gonna give money out, we're gonna give it out with good cause, but we need to validate that, and we need to be prepared to be your defenders when people are saying, well, why in the world are you giving them the money? Well, here's why. If we can save 2, that pays for the raises for the year. And it makes our employees happier, so,
We'll get you the data.
thank you. All right.
All right.
So are you gonna go into the jail stuff now?
Yeah, we'll go straight into the jail.
And that's account?
454.
Okay.
This one should be somewhere, obviously, what we just discussed with the salary issue. Obviously, it translates the same thing in the jail. I think we're all up to speed, we'll get that information to you, and give them to you, both of them are the same 3 to 5. There is one salary that we would like to address this year, which actually is for Lieutenant Cashwell, not forgetting right now, it's just because it actually refers to his salary. When, he took over that position, or we had 2 different lieutenant pays, one was for the jail and the other one's for on the 451 side. We're just trying to balance all the lieutenants to make one standardized pay, so I'm not having a lieutenant here at different pay levels, performing the same level of duties. So, some of that reason before was because the past jail administrator wasn't a licensed officer. And so with Lieutenant Capital being a licensed officer, he has more authority, he can do more things in the jail. So we're trying to bring him up to all the same lieutenant.
Do we require him to have that authority so he can do those more things in the jail?
Right now, yes,
Okay.
since he's here, yes, and has the authority, because the previous one can go ahead and make arrests and file reports and stuff like that versus what he does.
So are you making a line item for a non-licensed and then a licensed, that way,
Yes,
just in
yeah,
case
we're gonna have one in
in
there
the
just in
future, when
case in
he-
the future
when he
we're gonna
takes your
have-
job and later on, and then you can hire somebody that's not licensed?
Yeah, I'm actually breaking out, because we didn't have a scale for the
For
administrators,
the-
so
yeah.
we're developing one now for the administrators, that way, you know, so when you have a new one come in, they don't go all the way up to the top two.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'm a little bit confused on that explanation, because if we're gonna require it from Lieutenant Caswell, why wouldn't we require it from his replacement?
But if they don't have a license, and their duties are a little different, and then somebody else has to pick up those duties elsewhere.
John got that in the past, I think if I left David Cook around Rutledge, would be helping with certain things for the jail administrator that they could do.
Is that how you wanna run it?
That's gonna be this man's decision if I leave.
So is that how you wanna run it?
Yes.
It is.
Well, it depends on what kind of qualified person you can get in to do it.
Well, I get that, but I mean,
Yeah.
now we're taking a look at, you know, making another, job description and
Well,
possibly running that back
Well, he's
through.
already designated Department Head 1, which is the same as the other lieutenants that designated that.
Okay, so if you hired his
I'll
replacement,
just make lists.
But you're talking about whether or not to have a separate category for an unlicensed.
yeah, well, and then I'm not trying, again, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck.
They would probably be in a different, level. They
Well,
would be in a different
the
level.
sheriffs kinda have their own salary breakdown, that's what I was kinda saying, is it for a licensed versus unlicensed.
Right.
You know, theirs is a little bit separate than our grade.
But
For
my
that is,
my
you
question
want
is,
the reason why we would do that,
Yeah.
let's say I left tomorrow, like, screw y'all, I'm going to Waller County to get paid more, and they do. But let's say that happened. They may have, Commissioner Walker may have just resigned from the court or retired, she may want to be a jail administrator, and she'd be a really good one, but she's not an officer, so now the sheriff doesn't have the option to look at her. So, they might miss a potential really good
And
employee
my-
who could do the job.
yeah, but my point is, if the sheriff wants somebody that has your skills and abilities to run the jail the way you've been running it, it would disqualify Commissioner Walker or anybody else that applied for it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, we're gonna have a lower level.
If the
Yeah.
county-
We'll have a lower level built in, so if somebody does come with a non-license, their rate is gonna be at a lower level than the one with the license.
On the grade definitions, if you're worried about adding or making changes to that, you wouldn't have to, because his department head 1 ranges from 20 to 2760. So when you make your lower level, it just needs to be at least at $20 an hour on your pay scale.
You just hire them closer to the bottom.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
They're gonna hire you closer to the bottom, Commissioner, be prepared.
I will work my way up, trust me.
And I'm okay with that. It's just that, you know, every time we make a bit of a job modification,
Right.
then I don't get reprimanded, but I get challenged. Well, okay, we need to have a new job description. We need to go through the evaluation team. And I don't mind going through all that process, but the next thing you know, we've got all these job descriptions, and we might be 30% overhead, and I'll shut up because we're running on time.
Well, Judge, just to make a comment, I think this feeds directly into that prior conversation we had about the justification on salaries and things, of how we can do things to keep people.
Mhm.
So if he wanted to move, hopefully, if we are going down that road, there would be somebody that would be, have similar qualifications, where maybe what you're talking about doesn't
Yeah.
even become an issue.
Okay, that's fair. Please continue. You're holding us up.
And next one, obviously, we're, question, 2 additional dispatch, and I'm gonna refer this one to our dispatch supervisor.
I've spoken to you before, we got over here, I'm not told you. What would you like to?
Come on, Tim. Officer
And she's the one that
Castro.
answers the first call, so that's the first thing is, come on. What would you like to?
How important this is
I'm very
for
important.
Grimes County.
Right now, we have 8 dispatchers, I am in that 8 dispatchers. The previous administrator, supervisor over dispatch, covered dispatch and the jail. So she didn't take a spot out of dispatch, we still had 8 dispatchers. She didn't cover a shift. I'm covering a shift on top of doing my job as the supervisor. What we're requesting is two additional supervisors, supervisors would be great. 2 additional dispatchers, one to take my spot out of dispatch so I can do my job. Another one to assist for vacations, just for the overflow. Right now, when somebody takes vacation, holiday, we are using, our overtime budget. Or I try to fill in and just take off here in the week. Like this weekend I worked and I'll take off, 1 day this week, so we don't have overtime. But in doing so, you're only leaving one dispatcher in dispatch, and it's busy.
It's just, we gotten to a point now, we used to be able to run that division with 1 to 2 dispatchers, and now we run the situation a lot when you have call-in sick, holidays, and you're balancing hours and doing short days that we do to balance hours to fall within the budget. Is we're left a lot of times with 1 dispatcher in that office, and we relied on some of the jail personnel to help kind of catch some of the overflow, and it's getting a lot busier. As you see over the last 4 years, well, since 2014, we've seen an increase of probably 45% increase in call volume. And just the amount of stuff that's coming in, the more stuff we're having to collect, and dispatch fire, and dispatch medics, and all the responding officers and stuff. It's in answering 911 calls. It's when a 911 event comes, those dispatchers get overwhelmed very quickly. You can have, for instance, on some calls, 9 to 10 911 calls coming in, and at the same time, you're having to enter stuff in the computer, you're having to talk on the radio, you're having to page out medics, you gotta page out the fire departments, and
Now we're paging out PHI.
yeah, now you're having to do PHI and talk, and then answer all these calls, be able to look on the maps, make sure you're sending the appropriate units to the regions and stuff. It's becoming very overwhelming when those calls kick off. Now, it doesn't happen on every minute of the day, but it happens quite frequently throughout the day. So we're trying to more or less have where we actually have 2 on duty at all times to handle that, and then pull Tammy out a little bit out of the actual dispatcher role to make sure all our state reporting and stuff are complete, plus being able to supervise and correcting and managing and training all the new ones.
Was there equipment that could be used to kind of help with some of that stuff, or addressing, or who to send out? Or I know we're kind of behind on some of our equipment compared to some of the other counties.
But as far as some of the equipment and dispatch, we're pretty tied up on it. We have some of the 911 stuff that comes to the BB-COG and the 911 grant. In our computer-aided dispatch is also, now there's still some stuff that we're looking at, trying to tweak and improve on, and then.
Because I think, is there some, we've talked about a few things, I guess, we were talking about EMS and stuff, about, you ask a caller some questions, then they're sent somewhere else, and they ask them the same questions over again. I mean, is there kind of some equipment that could kind of help with some of that, to maybe send the caller and the answers go to the next source? Or
We are looking at trying to do some interface.
I think it's probably because our equipment's not the same as some of the other places, right? So.
And since, we don't have our own EMS and stuff, we're having to transfer out, and then each other entity all needs their information, so, we're looking at trying to do an interface with the EMS. That way we can reduce the amount of information that they're actually needing to get, and opening some enhancements up
Okay.
on it.
And we did talk about it, they had a meeting that all dispatchers, the city, the local dispatch, sheriff's department, and St. Joseph came to the table. And we recognized that in any emergency, it hits dispatch first, and if dispatch is overwhelmed, then
Yeah, so it
there's
definitely has to-
a backup right there.
Yeah.
Right, like
Yeah.
last week, I know we all know about the accident in Bean Eyes.
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay, had the horrible accident, 2 kids passed away. Pulled somebody from the jail to assist, cause we were launching 3 PHIs, I think 3 or 4 ambulances. So that's where we were getting at with the additional, because it doesn't happen every day, thank God. But we're having to pull, they cross-train, so we do have some jailers that are cross-trained in dispatch, where we say, hey, and they'll come and assist us wherever needed. Because they can sit at my desk and start launching PHI while we're trying to get everybody else en route. So it does become overwhelming, because we're doing all the paging, NAPSA doesn't page out their own EMS, we're paging out their EMS.
Everything's hidden in Grimes County.
Right.
And what she's telling you is over the years, we're using jailers to help dispatch, and dispatchers
Oh,
recently
yeah.
covered shifts in the jail. We keep doing this back and forth, so we don't have to always try to ask for more people and more things, but we're at the point that I don't have any people to give her, and she doesn't have people to give me at times, and, everybody's got a job, and it's time to ask for people.
And then when you throw in, when you hit 2 separate incidents like that, then you really split it up. What both dispatchers were trying to help one, help the other out. Now they got their own one to handle, and they got this one to handle.
We're still having to answer the landlines
You still
with
got all
other
the regular
callers
calls
and.
coming in.
Oh, why don't the administrative calls go to the secretary instead of going through dispatch?
Because you still have non-emergency calls
Come to dispatch.
that come through dispatch.
I
So
know,
all your everyday calls, it's, I need to report that, I need to report this, still has to be logged in, still has to be turned into.
but that couldn't be rerouted to someone else
We tried that
to
in the past.
Okay.
We tried that in the past. and
Well, but it just seems to me though, like, if I'm calling in, and I just have a question, if dispatch is the one that's answering it and gonna answer that question, and a 911 call comes in, and they're the only one there,
Well,
then that,
dispatch necessarily doesn't answer, they'll transfer those calls where they need to go.
Oh, yeah,
But-
we'll transfer.
But we tried that, and then we had 2
Quit interrupting.
or 3 records people that we needed to answer the calls versus, also, so you still gotta put personnel somewhere.
Well, you need 2 people on 24 hours a day, 365 days a
Oh,
year.
that would be awesome.
Well, no, I mean, that's what you need, that's what you're
Oh, but-
requesting, correct?
Yes, I think
So if you do
the
the,
county needs that.
if you do the math, there's 8,760 hours in a year, times 2 people on duty, then you're gonna be 17,520 hours of work per year. And if you divide that by 8, now if you divide that by 2,080 hours, which is your standard, you need 8.4 people.
Take his calculator.
Ma'am?
But don't forget, Judge.
I know, I found out why it's only 97 cents.
I
It just
did too.
got 2 division buttons on it. for me.
Holiday, vacation, and sick. These
Well,
people
no,
get good time.
no, I get that. And then supervisory duties and responsibilities. So you now have 8 people on staff,
Including myself.
Yes.
right?
The 8 people is including myself taking a position in dispatch.
I get that. And you're asking for 2 more.
Correct.
Okay.
Which with the holiday, everything would require at least 9 dispatchers. That way she can do her supervisor
Yeah.
type duties. And
The one to take over my spot in dispatch, and then the one to help the overflow and cover the sick, the holiday, the vacations. You're amazing how many people call in sick.
Oh, we need to,
My nose is running.
on the dispatchers.
I'm just pulling your leg right now.
Well, we need to be more stringent in our hiring practices.
Well, we can't be picky, we don't pay enough.
Don't speak unless called upon.
Fruit judge.
I didn't tell you also, we always, when we do have an opening, those openings sit, and then just really down, now we got a full one from the morning shift to cover morning and afternoon. And so you're splitting those duties up also.
I've done that. I've left at 10 in the morning so I can be back at 6 in the afternoon because somebody's called in sick and waited till 10 in the morning to let me know they've been throwing up all night.
Okay.
Okay. Is it anything else?
So
sir?
what is our starting pay on the jail, our dispatcher?
Dispatch 1324?
That's unlicensed. And then once they get their license, they go up.
And they go up to 14, that's within a year.
That's to me, that is a small amount of money for the responsibility that they have to our citizens. I wouldn't do it for that.
It's not
Even if
for
I was 25 years old, I wouldn't do it for that.
What do we have? Two that are trained right now?
I have 2 that are trained right now.
Theoretically, police officers can actually occupy a dispatch position, which on a temporary basis.
Sure.
A lot of them would hate to be thrown behind that,
They
But
don't.
they're not
thrown
trained.
behind that door. and
It's,
do it.
it's not that easy, trust me. Because
See, let me
I
find
try to
your
get
rules.
Chief to do it all the time,
they,
we'll do it.
they don't have the training, and then you gotta have special certifications through TCIC, NCIC, to run people and stuff.
It takes months to get one out.
Okay.
We don't just hire them, they're working next week, it's months.
Okay, anything else?
Yes,
Courtroom
we get,
security?
no, we.
Still on the jail?
Still on the jail, we got a couple of things that, looking at, we will,
Then there-
405, we're actually gonna reduce,
Yeah.
by 10,000.
Awesome.
Yeah, y'all approved that May 9th to move it to the 420 to cover my nurse's pay. So I didn't have to ask you for my approval.
Okay, we moved it May 9th
So
Is that what you
For
said?
the next budget.
for the
that's
next
already been
budget.
done.
Right, we did that while you were out of town.
Okay.
Commissioner Walker, 3 over here, they approved it.
So,
That's already, they were happy to take our money.
so we're reducing it, but we actually just moved it to 420 to offset the cost of the jail nurse, which y'all discussed maybe.
Awesome.
That's all we have.
Courthouse. You do courthouse?
You do court.
You did everything else? I believe, as y'all seen in recent weeks, with David being out, even if there's 2 courts run, sometimes we have to pull an administrator or investigator, sergeant to cover. What we're asking for is to leave everything the same in the budget, but add a little money to get a reserve deputy on payroll to help fill in if we have multiple courts, or if David Cook is out, we don't have anyone.
I'm still looking for my budget.
Yeah, what's the
there.
number
What
on
page
that?
are you
Fund
on?
44.
544?
Fund
44.
44.
44.
Which is past Fund 35?
Yes.
Okay.
44, 46.
One more time, Jesse?
Fund 44, so go to the Fund 35
Oh,
tab,
fun for it. I thought
the very last tab, and then you can go after that.
I'll catch up.
Does David Cook okay?
See if that's that experience.
406 Fund 40.
Maybe that'll be easier.
There you go.
44.
Mhm. That's it.
The judge with us? We're all good? And, I know I talked to some members of the court, including our county judge, about adding a part-time officer. Obviously, nobody wants to come to work for free. We'd like to get budgeted for 8 hours a week if needed, which it may be a month we won't need them at all, but if we do, to have the opportunity to hire one of the reserves to come in and work, to do security in the courthouse if we have 2 courts running, or if recently, he's been out for a couple surgeries, so we have the option of always having someone here to keep the courthouses secure. And that's the only change in the 44,406 on the budget, that add for a part-time officer.
Would there need to be any training associated for that, for courtroom security?
Absolutely, the jail's gonna cover all that cost.
Oh, okay.
We get a pretty good group deal, sending mass people to trainings, and we're all gonna need courthouse training, we're gonna take care of that on my end.
Okay.
So probably the reserves, I would think, as the peace officers anyway, they're not.
Yeah, yeah.
But they'll
So they still need
some
probably some
required training, right?
actual training for this court.
And we'll have to go over policy and everything, just like when David came in.
Mhm.
I'll take care of all that for Leon and Neil and whoever we end up using, just like we did with David. And I think he's done a pretty good job. I don't, that'd be the man to ask, but I've been pretty happy with how he's handled things. We just want someone else that he can train to do the same job that he does when we don't have him or we have two buildings running simultaneously. And we won't spend the money, obviously, if we don't need them.
But I think the way we're trying to schedule the courts, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sheree, but I think the way we're trying to schedule the courts, we're trying to be more efficient.
Right.
And there's a real possibility of having a court going on in here and on the second floor.
Judge, 3 weeks ago, we had a court here, the second floor, and at the
And-
American
And
Legion
at
Hall.
the AG, at the AG court.
I only have one deputy, so myself, my sergeant, and Deputy Cook, all three have to be somewhere. I mean, this would help that. We hate to pull investigators or administrators to stand around the door of the courthouse. We're paying these people to do a job, and it's not to guard the courthouse, not being rude, but you don't wanna take half your CID division or your administration to be the courthouse. And that's
I'm
our
on
only
your,
option.
I'm on your side. I'm just curious where Commissioner Cox is gonna get the money to pay for it. That's all.
We're gonna figure it out, Judge, trust me.
I think it's coming from courthouse accounts.
Yes, we do have court security funds that are generated by the revenue, and if you talk to Michelle, she's got a pretty good breakdown for you. Almost to the point that when they're 100% operational, we could even look at a warrant officer for them because of the amount of money they're expecting to generate. If you want to find the money, that money that goes to court security funds by law can only be used for court security funds. She can show you where you're gonna get the money at, Judge, if you need to see the numbers.
Yeah.
So it's definitely coming in. We've had the money to pay for a full-time out of a part-time court. Now we've got a full-time court, so it should be generating enough to pay for a part-time.
Yeah, there's a
officer.
pretty
I have no
significant
doubt.
fund balance, right, for court security, I believe, from a lot of those
I could,
funds. There's a pretty significant fund balance
right.
with court and court
There
security.
is a fund balance in that, I thought I would bring it with me today.
And we all need to remember now that Tux Court's running, those misdemeanors are generally
It's a
fines
lot
after
of
fines
stuff in
after
there.
fines after
Yeah.
fines, 20 at a time a day, pop, pop,
Yeah.
pop. And the ones that pay them, so they don't go to jail, that money's coming back to us.
Mhm.
That's something we've never really had in the past. So that's something to keep in mind, because that's
Absolutely.
what we'll use to pay for this.
I'll get you some figures on what we've received thus far.
Okay.
But the total number for the increase on that 406 was only $7,000. That's just for that officer. Everything else, just like the jail, will be the same.
And that's estimated, I mean, you know, if we have enough courts, it could be even higher than that,
Well, if
correct?
it goes higher, I plan on.
But like I said, I think, you know, what the funds we're getting in should pay for that from
Right, I mean, if we see that we're gonna be running 3 court buildings every week, I may have to come back before y'all and go, we need to double this amount. But I don't wanna get them a full-time, then we've got retirement, we've got insurance, a lot of expenses that part-timers don't get.
Yeah.
Part-timers
get
do
'em.
receive retirement, though.
Okay, they don't pay their insurance and everything.
Right, and that's
Okay.
almost 10 grand, so it's a.
So it
that's a
saves us
big
a lot of
thing.
money to not put them on full-time.
But it could
Okay.
easily go from 8 hours a week to 16, you know.
Right,
that
well, that would
be-
still be fine, 16,
Yeah.
but if you're looking at 24, 28, we might have to work something else out.
Okay.
And we're looking at like a range of 130 people that will just come through us. So it won't necessarily be the same person every time.
Mhm.
But have a group, have a pool of people that will get used.
They pull into it.
And it'll always get better. We're not looking to bring a rookie
Sure.
on. It'll be one of Neil or Leon, one of our veteran guys that we've held a commission that's worked trials before. But obviously, getting them on payroll makes it a lot easier to get them here.
Mhm.
Than if they just volunteer their time when they're able, sometimes they don't show up.
Yeah.
So,
Anything else?
that is all.
Because you've used up all of our break time, but that's all right.
Let's do it.
We can take a break.
Oh, well, thank you.
All
Gotta
right, we're
get
back
us
on
some
track.
follow-up information, some research data, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Lucy Pope?
Real quick, just a minute, Judge, do you know what push
I've already got it on here and we're rocking and rolling.
All right.
So you wanna take us through
All right.
10-405?
Okay, that is a salary for myself. And I am asking to be increased. I compared 4 department heads, and they range from 2147 that's with us as, you know, department heads to 2355. I think 2 of us are at 2147 at this time, and then I think there's one at 22, and then one is at 2355. So I'm just asking to be raised to 2283 on my budget. And then for Donna, she has been with me since 2017, and her duties are defined in grade 3 instead of grade 2. So I'd like to look into raising her to grade 3 and maybe giving her a raise to $14 an hour.
I don't have the grades. Anybody have that?
You don't have
I
the
didn't
grade?
bring it with
The
me.
what?
The grade.
There, it's in your
Here, I've got it
binder.
right here.
Oh, as far as that,
Yeah, here's the grades.
You said you wanna take
And
her
her-
from a,
From grade 2 to a grade 3, because now she does take money in. All of my retirees that have supplements, I have close to 19 retirees now that are on our supplement. And every month they come in and bring their money, and we make sure that the treasurer's off. So she does handle money. We do it every month. I mean, we have quite a bit coming in, and we make sure the treasurer has that money to you know, be deposited. So I'd like to have her raised to that. And
As you
then-
said, she's
She's at
currently
grade-
1266.
Uh-huh,
Okay. And if we took her to 3, we'd have to bring her at least to 13.
right,
But you're asking for her to go to 14.
14, yes, sir.
And again, how long has she been there?
She was my part-time for almost a year and a half, and then we transferred her to a full-time position in 2017, so.
She used to have 2 part-time positions.
I used to have 2 part-time positions, you know, and then we changed it to a full-time position
and I probably missed it, but you say she's currently at how much an hour?
at 1266.
and y'all have this sheet as well, hers would be page 4 of 5, it shows you what their rate is. And it shows you which grade level and what the range is for the grade level. Lucy, is she part of the ones, I know there's been several departments that have requested a grade change, and you were setting up a meeting for that.
Yeah, June the 6th. We
Is
have a-
she on that meeting?
Yes, she is.
Okay,
She
because that
is.
would be the time that.
I'm having the job evaluation team meet June the 6th, and there's 4 of us that's gonna discuss it, see how they feel, and bring it before Commissioners Court, you know, to get that grade changed if we can. Okay, with her. And then if you'll go down to 405-310, last year we had $400 in there. I don't use that much postage, so I'm giving back to the county $150. And then on 405 rental contracts, I moved it from 560 to 210 because I don't have that much rental in contracts that I'm aware of. So I'm giving back the county $310. And then repair and maintenance, really all I have in my department is my computers, and we're giving that all back to IT, so I'm giving back $500. So that's $960 I'm giving back to them. And every year I try to keep my budget not in the negative, but give back to the county instead of always having that. Yes, go ahead.
You do want to increase though, don't forget about your recognition, employee recognition, remember we discussed that?
Yes, I got with David, and I want to increase the, where's that at?
At the second page.
Second page, yes.
602.
I want to raise that so that David and I had spoken about giving plaques instead to the 10 and 20, right?
10,
David?
15, 20, 25.
15, 20,
I think
instead
after
of
10
pens.
years, they would deserve a plaque to be hung in their office or wherever they're working. You know, for the public to see when they come in
Right.
and visit.
And our representative for National Family Care, I talked to him, and he has the wooden plaques, and he's gonna give me about 30 of those wooden plaques, so all we're gonna have to do is buy the plate to go over it. So, but if he gives us that, that will cut that cost down too. So,
I think I have somebody that will engrave it for us too.
I'm sorry?
I might be able to get it engraved free too.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So that's gonna save the county too, so. If y'all would just consider that, the raises, I'd appreciate it.
But the overall, it's a 57.70
Yes,
increase.
for both of us, yeah.
Now, you said something was a little different on this page, Jesse, that,
Okay, so, on the second page, so 205, page 205, because Lucy is underneath Commissioner's Court, I should have, just where it says 44,647.20, I should have had included, her increase. So her increase she's asking for is 2839.20, plus what she's currently making now is that. So that number really should have said 47,486.40, and the difference would have been her increase, 2830. Because y'all do have authority to say we want to give her that raise, whereas if she had multiple employees underneath her, and she asked for a specific amount, you couldn't say, you know what, I only want you to give this one employee 50 cents and this one employee 25. You're not able to tell them who to give it to. So under the annual merit raise, instead of it being 56.26, it should have showed 27.87.20. And that was it. It was just basically
Taking me out.
taking you out and putting you in your line, because
Yeah.
they can say that, so.
Repeat that again.
Okay, so
20, just the 27 what?
2787.20. And that, all that information was on her questionnaire form.
which is her assistant
That's her assistant.
request.
Yeah.
The 27, it
They'll
goes
take it
on
to
the merit.
14.
Yes, her assistant one.
So Donna's the only one underneath the merit, is that what you're trying to
Yes,
say? Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Which we know who you're gonna give the increase to if you,
Right,
if it
'cause
was
she's the only
approved,
one
because
that
she's the
had.
only one. But had you had multiple people, it would have been under merit raises, and you would have determined who to give what to, based off of what they approved. Essentially, it's the same thing though. I mean, it's just placement of the numbers.
And I think two of us department heads, Kat and I are at the same pay rate, 2147. And then the other one is the voters administrator is making 2283, and then Brenda Williams is making, which, each of us have our own duties, I know that, and we play a role in Grimes County. But I just feel like, you know, I've been here 12 years, and I just feel like I need y'all to consider raising.
Now, last year you received what? I can remember it was a bit of confusion.
Last year, Judge Lamont gave us 42 cents to be divided between each of us. And so he said he'd make the decision. Donna got 16 cents and I got 23 cents, something like
26,
that.
I think, I believe.
So,
And the packet that I gave Commissioner's Court, it's binded with paper clips on the front. That packet shows all the years that was budgeted. So you can see, and not just on yours, it's
Yeah.
every single department, but you can see like if she's, you know, where the increases were given for like her department and if there was an increase. So if you turn to page 19 of the pack, well, the paper clip portion, if you just go to the fourth page. And you can see what year she went from part-time to full-time, her assistant. And you can see any type of increases that were given. her 2 part-time positions basically in the past made that full-time position.
Right.
And from 2015 to 2016, there was an increase. And then in 2017, there was another increase.
But the
And
year
actually,
before that,
actually, that was when they split it.
Yeah.
They split it up. So,
you're talking about my
Part-time to
assistant.
full-time,
Yeah,
yes.
my assistant, okay.
and then on the HR line, there was an increase in 2016
But that's when I
27.
got my,
tenure.
yeah, my $1.20, and then he gave me 2 cents more because of the 10-year tenor in the 2016. And then last year I got 23, 26
Yes,
cents. something
you're
like
right, on the tenure, on the 2016.
On your travel and conferences,
Yes, sir.
you haven't spent much of it or most of them in the summertime?
that. Right. I go to the County Risk and Management Conference, you know, and then I go to the TCDRS. And when we go to that TCDRS, we have to pay for everything.
Yeah.
So it does take up that
So
extent.
it'll
Yeah.
take it up in the summer, but
Yeah.
I haven't used much of it yet, so
No,
I'll make see if
no,
that in the
not yet.
summertime. Okay.
We try to go to many, you know, as many conferences as we can, but with that county management and risk seminar, then they refund me back if they'll refund all of our hotel and our travel back. So I give it back to the county, you know, so, you know, I try
Oh,
to
it still
go.
has to be a budget, cause it's gonna
Right.
get spent, but then you're still
Right.
gonna get it back.
Right.
Okay, that's good, that's good.
And,
So
and,
they do give that back to,
Yeah,
okay,
I'll be
so,
getting a check from Donna went and I went also, so we'll get refunded for that conference that we went in April. They
and
haven't sent the checks out yet, but.
also as a side note, they will also refund county commissioners and judges if they
Right.
decide to go.
Yes.
You just pay for it out of your budget, then it comes back.
I'm just thinking if you know it's gonna come back, you don't really have to budget for it then, if you know that
But
it's coming back.
they might,
But they might not.
they might not, they might
Okay.
change it with cost, the cost of these conferences now, so.
TAC will reimburse me up to $750 a year
Oh.
on training.
Okay.
So no matter which training, as long as it's a
No,
TAC training.
no, it's gotta be TAC training.
Well,
Yeah,
obviously, yes, as long as it's a TAC training, but
Right.
it doesn't, not a specific course in TAC.
Correct.
Okay.
And while everyone's here, we are gonna have open enrollment, in August this year, August the 23rd and 24th. I'm gonna have to have, all the courts are full with courts going on, so I did get the American Legion Hall for that one full day for all employees. You know, they're mandated to come in and I've got that all set up. So, and then on the 24th, I go a half a day to the sheriff's department. So, but that gives I talked to the sheriff and and Todd, that gives a chance for those deputies to come on in on the 23rd at the American Legion Hall and still, you know, because they've changed their hours to come in, so. Okay.
Anything else for clarity?
No, I just wanna make sure you told me instead of where you have the 44,647, that should be 478.
47486.40.
Okay, okay. Point what?
40.
Okay.
Which is an increase of 2839.20.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody good?
Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Greg's ran down to my office to get some papers, hole punch. I told him we have an electric hole punch, so. He'll be right back.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. With department heads, did you have to have more than one full-time employee, or was it several employees? What is it? Y'all,
Let me
it's
go
something-
print that. Can I print that? I'm gonna go print that for you
Okay.
guys, and y'all can put it in your binder.
Okay, thank you. And be over your own budget, it's several things, right?
Feel like.
It's several things that fall under that.
And then you also, when considering raises, you'll need to look at this sheet and make sure no one's redlined when looking at it and talking
when you say red line,
that they're.
which sheet are you asking us to look at?
So I'm behind everyone that has salary, there should be, not
Mhm.
one. There should be a sheet like this.
Mm-hmm,
And so it'll tell you, she's a department head one,
mm-hmm,
this is her grade, or, I'm sorry, this is her grade, department head one, this is
Mhm.
the range.
Mhm.
So when they're red lines, so say for instance, Donna Blankenship,
Mhm.
grade 2, and she's at 1266. Well, she was at 1440, and she hasn't had her tenure, and they were asking for a raise, she wouldn't be eligible for a
Mhm.
raise because it would exceed that range. So red line just means that they're.
At the top of their range.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, sir.
But it'll have a red line on here to remind us?
No, it won't.
You just want us to be mindful?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am. And then this is the top with the tenure.
okay.
Let me see if I can get that copy.
Has Andrew earned his pay for today?
As he's left.
Earned his pay for the day?
Yeah, he's working on that cart right now for Judge McKay, but we don't have, we just put the gifts to the ring, full set in one, finish it up, so. But yeah,
Do you need a socket set or something?
yeah, socket and wrench set, wrench on by strip. They give those cheap little tools that are included with the kits and those are horrible. So, but yeah, it's nice to have him on board.
423.
Yes. And I've also been tasked with, Fund 24, with the new dog technology. We'll address that afterwards. if
Okay.
that's okay.
All right.
And excuse my ignorance on how the budget process works in the county. There's been, since y'all received my budget and the budget book, there's some new items that came in from some of the departments, and I have handouts that would replace that if you want those.
Okay, instead of this right here.
Yes.
The whole thing or just
The whole thing, basically.
the whole thing?
Well, I hope you made copies for me and Jesse.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I think I've got enough copies.
So you need all 19 pages replaced?
It'd probably be easier to replace the whole group.
Even the pretty picture on page 19?
Now you keep the pretty picture.
So we can toss this.
Yes. You should have all the updated copies.
Replacing,
Thank you.
Page 3 to 19 is giving you
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. That answered my question.
So, 3 to the end, is that what you said?
is what this
Everyone ready? Okay. I assume the process is just to step through each of the line items and give an explanation for each, so if that's the proper procedure, I'll proceed.
Yes,
One of the first items that I'm requesting, and I'm aware, I'm probably the highest paid or next to highest paid employee in the county, but I'm requesting a salary increase. And attachment A outlines why I believe that salary increase is justified. It's going from 85 to 90,000. Basically, I'm on call 24/7, 365 in the position because the sheriff's operation operates 24/7, and they depend upon our internet connections, our network connections to be able to dispatch 911, et cetera. Over the previous person that held this position, Shane McQuarter, even when you take into account all the payroll benefits, it's still $11,254 difference from what he was being paid versus what I'm being paid, a consultant versus a salaried employee, even when you take in all the benefits and pension contributions or the retirement contributions. I've been able to provide an $18,000 annual savings on our backup solution over the solution we were using previously, $12,000 plus per year savings on toner with our new toner purchase program. We've been able to reduce traveling costs because we've implemented across the county for Iowa and Navasota and here the ability to remote into all the machines, so that saves us the percents per mile for reimbursement for travel costs. That's been reduced. There's been an 18% reduction in the purchase of laptops and desktops prior when County Text was purchasing laptops and desktops for the county. They were providing about a 15% markup on laptops and desktops as well as other network equipment, cables, et cetera. So we've locked out that middleman in these purchases, and we're buying directly at lowest bid on the internet or from Dell. I'll be working with Michelle and with Mary on cleaning up some of the phone lines that have been no longer in use. We got notification from CenturyLink. We think we have a contract right now that there's 3 lines that we're being charged for that has showed no activity in months. We don't know how long. It could be 2 years that we're paying $1,700 a month for that's not even being used. So that's $40,000 easily. It could be possibly recouped there. I'm gonna work with Mary. We're gonna try to recoup some of that cost with John Bolt's help. And then there's a $4,000 savings on repurposing a Fortinet firewall that the sheriff's office purchased, so we didn't have to forego that purchase. So just in these costs alone, it's been $68,254 savings while in this position.
And there's probably gonna be even more savings than that in the telephones. Once he and I get to sit down and really go through it, I think we're gonna find quite a few lines that are no longer in use. Like there's phone lines registered and going on at 208 Judson. I don't know of anybody that's still in there. Is the health department still in there? So there's nobody in there. Okay?
You have your water district or somebody that's still using it, but they don't use phones.
So we're being charged for something going there. So that I can't wait to get to sit down with you and go through it, because I really think we're gonna recoup a lot of money.
Y'all need to make a date to sit down. Don't just say when y'all can sit down. Y'all need to make a date, because if the money is that substantial, we need to cut that faucet off as soon as we possibly can. I mean, we're willing to let y'all work over to have the time to sit down.
I'm sure you will.
Gladly.
Did anybody have any questions? The PC.
I do,
Okay.
even though Commissioner Walker wants me to keep my mouth shut.
No, I said, when I answer for self.
I'm messing with you.
Okay.
Do you see any other low-hanging fruit that you haven't got to pick yet?
I think the circuits is gonna be a big one. I think some of the things I've got outlined in the budget, they're not necessarily cost savings, but we should see productivity increase. I'm big on servicing the users. If there's less frustration, everything just seems to work smoother. Everybody's happier, things are working good. That's what I'm looking to do. Ever since I came on board, I started tracking the performance of all the circuits, and what I'd heard before, circuits were going up and down, and the internet was bad. So we made some changes, hired that company, we made some changes to the network. Ever since we've made the changes, we've only been down about 2 minutes out of the last 90 days. So those kind of things make a difference in the attitude of the employee, because they just get here and they can depend on things working. So to answer your question, I don't see a lot of low-hanging fruit that are true hard dollar savings, but I think a lot of the things that we're gonna be doing moving forward, like with the antivirus, we found over 35,000 viruses on our machines. We've narrowed that down to, we get less than 50 a day now. And that's because just today we had people seeing phishing emails come in, and I've had 2 people that have clicked on them already. And so we're always gonna have them, but at least we're stopping them. We don't have the infestation. So I hope that answers your question.
And I think at Judge LaFleur's office, and I don't know if you had an opportunity, but I've noticed the difference. But they were losing time because of the internet going down, and they'd have to stop work, or he'd send them home, so.
I think once we get people like all on the same version of Office, I think we'll have the compatibility issues, people trying to share documents. There's a value to that, but
Sure.
it's just hard to put a tangible dollar.
Okay.
Greg, on our security system, when I was in Washington DC a couple of weeks ago, we met with NACO. They say they have a security system that's free to the counties to run on our systems. Are you aware of that? Have you heard of that?
When I was at I spoke before the Texas House of Representatives on their select committee on cybersecurity, representing all 254 counties in the state. And one of the gentlemen brought up that there's programs at the state level. I don't know what the requirements are, but I got the gentleman's card, and they provide programs that are free to rural counties, rural school municipalities, things like that, because of their budget funds.
Yeah.
And he did speak of something similar to that, but I don't know the details on it.
Okay. I've got some contacts there, people in Washington DC, if you wanna
Yeah.
look at that,
Yeah,
I'll get it to you.
Because a lot of these government agencies really try to help out these small, budget constrained school districts and cities and rural counties.
May I ask another question, not to take up your time, but I intended to bring it to you. I picked up a sheet when I was in SAM. They do replace ink in the desktops for $6. So I don't know if that's,
This company that we've been working with is probably some of the cheapest toner I've seen.
Toner.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of inkjet printers. Most of the printers in the county, probably 95% or 98% are toner, laser based. And we're finding that we're having very good luck. Cherie can attest to this, that we've used some of the toner in her printers. She's said it's been great. I've used them for probably 11 years, and it's really cheap. We found that in the DA's office, they were paying $180 a cartridge for the same toner yield as the $22 cartridge we've been buying now. It's the same quality, same toner yield, 3,900 pages per toner cartridge. So I think we can definitely look into it to see if it would be cheaper if Sam's and some of these places that can refill them, if it would be
Yes.
cheaper than us buying a full cartridge. I can look into it.
yes, because on the desktops, I think they run around, they can get pretty high, $65 for an extended,
Yeah,
when you can pay $6 at SAM.
yeah, we can check into that.
Okay, and I'll find that sheet for you.
The PC technician, are you aware, we were able to, I have the commissioner's approval to bring our PC tech on board. He's doing great, everything's working out well there. I appreciate y'all's support in that. We'll make a huge difference in our support for the county.
Did we approved overtime, or is that new?
Well, I'm putting some overtime in there, because we know we're gonna have to do some network work in the next year. And some of this work we can't do except after hours. And since he's hourly, we can do it during the day, but it just brings down everybody on the network. Everybody have to go home or be shut down for several hours. So I put some figures in there of 120 hours for the whole year. We're talking about 10 hours a month at max. But we don't anticipate, hopefully not having to use that, and hopefully it's just the first year, it'll be much smaller the coming years, but we wanted to make sure that we, Jesse had recommended that we make sure we put that in there to cover it, so we don't have to go back for a special amendment later to request that. And then we have the normal FICA group insurance, retirement, unemployment insurance, and then those next sections. Office supplies, as you can see, we didn't have any budgeted for 2017. We've consumed $1225 thus far this year, so I put approximately $1,400 for office supplies for this next year. Printer supplies, this is where we, printer parts, toner, that's where most of that resides. Some for ink, we've got a real expensive inkjet plotter in the 911 addressing, that big plotter, that uses expensive HP inks, and you have to use specialized inks in that. So it's so we have toner, inks, and printer parts. Some of these printers we can replace the drums for cheap. Sometimes it's better just to replace the whole printer because the price of the drum is the price of the printer. But there are instances where we can replace some of the parts and save the printer without having to buy a whole new printer.
And the 26,100, that's countywide?
Countywide.
Is
that's
that,
all.
is that 100% all departments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody else should be budgeting that, correct?
They shouldn't be, right. And we tried to do the best we could by going back to the office supplies, because that's typically where they, well, I wouldn't say typically, sometimes they put it in machinery and equipment, sometimes they put it in office supplies when they would order their own toner. And sometimes they weren't ordering from Amazon, they were ordering from almost anywhere, so it was hard to track down the true dollar for dollar cost. But I feel confident this is a pretty close number to how much we'll probably spend on ink and toner this year.
Okay, so now we're talking two things, ink and toner.
Yes.
Okay, so all ink comes through you, because everybody don't use toner, so I'm just trying to make sure.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's how I envision it. That's how I've tried to portray it to the department heads, that if you need toner, you need printers, you need printer supplies, besides paper, that come through IT, because we source this information, source these items, we know where the best price to get them for.
Something to keep in mind is I don't believe all the department heads are reducing their office supply for that purpose, and so it was just, this is the number he came up with and is anticipating, but I don't think other departments are reducing their office supplies. That would take that would take a little more, a lot more research, because you would have to go through the GL, and unless they have one person purchasing and they can kind of give you an approximation of how many they buy, but.
See, I think this will benefit us in the following year if we have all printer supplies, toner stuff coming from one GL category. It makes it easier for us to budget when people are buying stuff from wherever, on credit card, through PO, from Amazon, from Quill. It's hard to track what your true cost you're spending.
Yeah.
But this way, the following year, we'll have a better cost of what idea what we're spending. Any questions about printers? Rental contracts and telephone. Let's switch over here. This primarily has to do with copiers. This section is primarily copiers. There's only one item in there, and I put it as a lift for tower work. I know I'm gonna have to rent a scissor lift at least once this year to our antennas on our roof that point back to the sheriff's office for our internet. Those get blown around by wind, by the elements. They have to be retuned to keep the signal strong. We can do things to tighten them, make sure they're solid up there and don't move, but we know we will have to rent a scissor lift at least one time in the next budget year to go up and.
How high do you have to go?
The one at Road and Bridge, I think, is 30 feet up. That's about as high as we have to go. I think they rent 50
I think the
feet.
one over there at the old adult probation, I think that one's at 50.
Is it at 50?
Yeah, cause Shane was saying that,
I know he rented a 50-foot scissor lift, but I don't know
and he said
how
it really
it's-
wasn't quite tall enough.
Yeah. So it's, and I don't wanna be on that scissor lift. I'm afraid of heights.
Me too.
But we will need some way of getting up to, and the only way, those towers are not climbable towers, they're just a pole. So you have to have something that, a bucket system or a scissor lift, something that'll lift you up there.
So we'll rename that account, I guess, take the telephone off of that, because you said it's mainly for copiers.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, rental contracts, not telephone, just rental contracts. The rest of it all has to do with how much we expend each year in impressions or prints. They charge us so much per impression on the copiers as part of the maintenance contract. These are maintenance contracts. Remember, we're purchasing all copiers and scanners from the supplier. And so we only have 2 copiers to buy this year, one for the DPS office for $47.39 and one for the DA office $99.88. Both of their leases come due this summer for those 2 offices. Everybody else has already been purchased.
And then don't
So
you have-
that
isn't
needs to
there
go to
one-
machinery and equipment then,
Okay.
the purchase of those 2.
And isn't one coming due in April of next year?
Yes, they forgot to tell y'all, and they renewed in April. We found out after the fact. They renewed one in April. That was the.
Who's that?
What is that?
Without going before court?
I bet it was,
Judge LaFleur?
Ag Extension, is that what it was?
You sure wasn't Judge LaFleur? Cause I thought I saw, the guy in town, Precision,
Oh,
Written down.
yeah, I know.
and he has a copier sitting there.
Roshner, Dave.
Cause I was about to ask
I
you.
don't know, because Cindy
It's on
came
the
by and
agenda
she
for
said, told
Wednesday.
me something about it. But she said it came due next April.
I know earlier in the year, I saw Precision Printing delivering something to Judge LaFleur's office, and then there's a printer. I was gonna ask, what do you do with those printers that are just sitting in their office? It's a big printer.
Send them back.
Well, it depends on whether we own it.
That's what I didn't know. That was gonna be my question to him.
If we own it, then we could have, Al bring it over here and put it in the old adult probation building. And when he has enough stuff, then we have, SWACO come out, take the pictures and put it on auction.
Well, I'll
It
get with Al.
says adult probation was the one that renewed in April
Adult
of
probation.
2018. Adult probation.
I didn't
So
say
that's
that.
the one coming through.
Is that the last thing you did before you left?
No.
Well, you might wanna check with Judge LaFleur's office also, because like I said, there's a printer sitting, a huge printer sitting in their floor, and they were like, we don't know what we're supposed to do with it.
Okay.
When you, okay, so you did put the maintenance for DPS for the new one?
Yes,
Okay, and the new one for the DAs as well?
yes.
Okay, so then that line item needs to be reduced by 14,728.18.
Okay.
Which line is that?
405.
We're gonna reduce it from,
14, we're gonna reduce it by 14,728.18 for the purchase of those 2 copiers. And then we need to increase 505 by that amount. So, let's see, rentals and contracts, 14,000 minus 26, 522.22. So then that, I only get about 11 grand, 11,794. 11,794.04. And the machinery and equipment would change 21,000 plus 14,728, 115, 35,000. 728.18. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it's in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Greg, on the software, is that the, maintenance on the software?
Well, Some of it's maintenance, some of it is an annual subscription.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, did you include the one for my department? Because if you did, I want to transfer money from mine. I have Hill Country.
Yeah, I included Hill Country in there.
I don't know.
Okay, well, you know, each, like the 3 JPs, each one of them pay a service
Right,
amount.
and I called Hill Country and I
Oh,
asked them
okay.
to give us, each of the offices that we have.
Okay.
All the JPs, your office, district clerk's office, the county court at law, sharing license with district clerk. So I got all those licenses and the cost,
And county clerk.
and county clerk, and got all those costs, and that's where I came up with that, Hill Country price of $34.90.
34.9.
What line are we on?
I
want-
jumped.
Yeah. I'd like to jump back to the next line item, which is repairs and maintenance telephone.
Okay.
423, 410?
Yes. And if you'll look at the pretty picture I gave y'all, this kind of pertains to that section.
Yes.
We spend a tremendous amount of time when we have to diagnose problems in the closet because there's zero documentation, nothing's labeled, and you can see it's a rat's nest. And we have no idea what those cables connect to or anything. So we got a quote from our telephone provider, Enterprise Systems, and that's what that $15,750, that's to clean up 6 closets. I didn't put it on here, but it's cleaning up 6 of our closets.
And where's that price that you just talked about? Where are we
It's-
looking at it?
Yes, it's under repairs and maintenance telephone, 423, 410.
Some of the mess they made.
What's that?
Some of the mess they made.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mess.
That's CenturyLink for you.
Yeah, I think it's CenturyLink, I think it's,
Suddenly.
yeah, I think it's too many hands in the cookie jar. And there's also, when we went to find problems at the JP's office, JP1, they, we kept having all kinds of network issues. Well, we tore the ceiling tiles back and began to look. They've spliced wires, which you're never supposed to do on a network. You never splice network wires. They did things like that. And the internet connection's back in the constable's office, which is always locked, and so we can't ever get in there. It all needs to be basically rewired, re-centralized, because they still have issues with the wiring.
Enterprise did not do this.
No, Enterprise did not do that.
But who's gonna clean it up now?
Enterprise.
We've got a quote from Enterprise. That's where we got that $15,570 to clean up the closets. The rewiring of the JP, I can bid that out. $2,000 I think is gonna be more than adequate. I could probably source it down and probably get it less than that.
Now, who are the guys that live in the closet over there? Is that US Phone or who is that?
Yes, US Phone brings our internet into the jail, and that closet, we have two closets over there. This is closet number 1, and closet number 2 looks almost as bad.
So that's at the Navasota Annex. Is that US Phone that's always there?
That's Suddenlink that's there at.
No, the
Minnesota.
guys, they were one of the phone companies.
Originally CenturyLink put it in, but then I think they terminated the CenturyLink contract because it was expensive, and they put in business class Suddenlink, which is not that great. That's why they had so much trouble making that work with the phones. But,
So that's US Phone that's always coming over.
well, US Phone brings the internet to the sheriff's office. That's the only connection.
They're
they
just
pay.
fiber, yeah, they're just fiber, right?
Yeah, they're
It's
just
fiber
fiber.
company.
Oh, that's just fiber company. So that's Enterprise that's always over there.
The company that comes out and helps. Yeah,
Mhm.
Enterprise, because they really know our phone systems. They're the ones that saved us from, they told the commissioner's court, CenturyLink said you gotta buy a $200,000 phone system.
That's who I'm talking about.
And Enterprise said, no, we can fix it for $100, and they replaced the memory and it fixed it, so.
Okay, cause one of the,
Full disclosure, before I go any further to the auditors, Enterprise Systems, I go to church with the president and a sales guy and a technician from this company. And I recommended this, well, I just wanted it on the record. And this, I recommended this company before I was a county employee or elected employee. So I just want full disclosure that I recommended the company in the beginning. I still go to church with these guys, but,
You might wanna put it in writing and consult with your county attorney.
well, I'm okay to do that, but I just wanted to throw that out there that if y'all have to vote on it or something, that,
You would abstain from voting, that would be the best thing.
I can do that, but I just want y'all to be upfront that I'm the one that originally recommended them to the county,
Thank you.
but I go to church with them, and because of, I know the reputation, that's why I recommended them.
Yeah, and
And when we were
They've
looking
already
at
saved
200,
a lot of money. so.
when we were looking at 250,000, I said, do you mind if these guys come in and look? And said, no, not at all, so.
The one thing I would like to suggest that if we talk about cost savings, and I think I've already talked to you about it, when we change the numbers and the names on numbers,
yeah.
and the fee we were paying just to change a person's name, to me was extremely.
And I brought this up with Enterprise because they handle our phone systems. We submit tickets, like you said, to change name and extension. That's a very simple process, but it's on an old phone system that it's hard to do, or it's hard to learn how to do. It's easy to do once you know it, but we've requested, train me so I can train our new PC tech, because those kind of changes are easy to make. And they will save us, I think they charge us $100 or $200.
It's like
to change
$250 or somewhere like that
name
if I
change
make them,
of
just to
extension.
change your name.
So,
or an extension.
but they are very good at working on this old phone system, the lead technician Lance. I've dealt with phone guys my whole life. He's probably one of the best I've ever worked with. He really knows his stuff on his phone system.
And I don't know Lance or go to church with him.
Well, okay.
Any questions about the repairs and maintenance on telephones? The next one is professional services. There's some network changes that I want to do to the network, and some of it may require some rewiring of the existing buildings that we have now, because they have older Cat 3 cable, which doesn't make conducive for a faster network, connection issues, those kind of things. So I'll add to the budget for an outside consulting company to help us with things like that, redesign of the network, like if we had to implement a new security system, what we would do there, if we had to, like we're having issues right now where we need to communicate the courthouse cameras to the jailhouse cameras, because Shane quit just before that ever got implemented. So now we've got an expensive system that the jail can't see, but nobody knows how to operate. So we're gonna have to get somebody in to help us make that connectivity between those two camera systems. So that's things like that, professional services. I'm gonna need some type of a budget to be able to bring people in to help us with those kind of issues.
But less than what you had budgeted.
What's that?
But less than what you had budgeted.
Yeah, what we have.
6,000.
Yeah.
You had 25, you bring it to 19,
Yeah,
that's 6,000 less.
That was carried over. I think they put that 25,000 in there for Shane.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna need that much.
Good, okay.
But from time to time, we need outside consulting services for complex situations. Dues and subscriptions is the next one.
Right before we move on,
Sure.
some of this didn't come from Shane. Some of it came from us as a court when we was trying to set up this IT
Right.
department. Okay, so I just want to
There were a lot
clarify.
of, there were a lot of unknowns. on it,
Yeah,
so we wanted
some
to try
of
to
the
make sure you
unknowns
were
we
covered.
put in there.
Dues and subscriptions. There's one membership that I'm a member of. That's the Forbes Magazine Technology Council seat membership. On that seat, they only invited a select number of people to be on the Forbes Council, and I provide insight through articles, I have to publish at least twice a year, but I get access to high-level resources, high-level information that the general public won't get right away. So I'd like to keep that membership if possible. It allows me to get access, bring awareness to the county through the articles that I write. So if I write an article about what the training's gonna do to the county, I can bring awareness to Grimes County through this publication.
Do you have that article written?
No, I don't
Sorry.
have it written yet.
I'm going to a meeting tonight, of course you can, I'd like to have it.
And then there's miscellaneous memberships like the Texas Associates of Government IT Managers, I think that's $600 a year. There's another similar membership that's like $395 a year, but that totals almost $1,000 membership for those organizations. The TAG ITMS is a good one. He was my co-speaker at the event in San Antonio.
Okay, you need to pick it up, Greg, your time's up.
Okay.
Budget's over.
Uh-oh. Better skim through this quick. Just stamp it.
Makes it much easier, right?
Software, that's the big one. And I tried to highlight those things that are in green were items that were already in the 2018 budget, and it's supposed to be in red, but those in black are in the 2019 budget, additional items. I can go through each of these and kind of explain them if you'd like. Each of the software items. No. The big one for me is the Office 365 and Exchange. I think that's gonna be one of my big projects this year to approve. It allows us to get all on the same version of Office. It allows us all to be on the same mail system. That's why we're getting hit with so many viruses and stuff. We're on antiquated mail systems where we can't control them. We can't control the stuff that's coming into those mail servers. And when we have a catastrophic failure in a machine, it's hard to recover their old email because they're on an old email system. It's just not advantageous for doing what we need to do. So that 18,750 to put the entire county on Office Exchange and Office, the newest version of Office, so we don't have these compatibility issues. Plus it allows us to clean up our license management. Right now, that's a nightmare for me, because once we lose a machine, if I can't find that license, I've got to pay another $300 to put Office back on it. You can't retrieve the license. So that's happened at least twice that I know of so far since I've been here. That's
Is this a
almost-
one-time fee and then it's a
It's
slight fee
annual.
after that?
No, it's
Oh,
annual.
it's 18,000 annual.
Yeah. It gives us bigger mailboxes, it gives us a lot more features that we don't have in our current mail system with shared calendars, which I know this is big for the DA, they would like to have shared calendars. They're beating me up on that. So it adds a lot of functionality. We talked about that low-hanging fruit that has non-intangible dollars, but
Well, there's also some liability if we ever, somebody came in and audited us on our licenses.
yeah.
So,
Plus, if we implement this system with just a click and some money, we can, if the state says, we want you to have a copy of every email from everybody in the county, we can, for $3 a month per account, they will keep all of our email indefinitely. And so it doesn't matter if it comes in, the user deletes it and says, I never got that email, we've got copies of it, so if we ever get called for, what do they call it in the court?
testimony?
Yeah, where they,
Subpoena.
where they subpoena your records, and they go like their thing, all we gotta do is point them to our archive mail server in the cloud, then they can have access to that user's account. Yeah, every email that's ever come in, whether it's spam, adware, it doesn't matter, so those kind of features are available as well.
So now the Adobe, when you say 20 copies,
I'm getting requests a lot for Adobe. People need to be able to create PDFs that are editable and searchable, and you can only do that with a full version of Adobe Acrobat. We've got a few people in the county that have the full version of Adobe, like the district clerk's office, but most of them are using old versions and haven't upgraded. Well, there's security risk in those flaws that they're no longer patching because the software has reached end of life. And so we need to get everybody on a subscription base. And the great thing about if I purchase 10 or 20 copies, ever how many we feel we need, my guess is we need about 20 right now, is that if that person needs it for a little while, I can assign it to them and then I can pull it back and give it to somebody else. It's not permanently assigned to them and it's burned, that last burn. I can distribute it back and forth amongst users.
Is that a perpetual expense?
What's that?
Is that a perpetual expense? Do you have to pay that every year?
Yes,
So the 1893,000 are perpetual.
yes.
And then the Adobe's perpetual?
Yeah, nearly everything on here is, everything on here is perpetual.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're switching to Windows 10, am I?
Yeah, we have to because Windows 7 is being decommissioned at the end of 2019, but I need at least 6 months to get people migrated. So we're talking about mid-2019. I've got to start moving people to Windows 10 because we got to find out what's compatible, what kind of issues we have, is the hardware out of date, all those kind of things. And it'll take 6 months probably to move about 125 users we have. So I have to take care of that sooner than later. So as you can see, we had about 34,000 total items in the 2019, I'm sorry, 54,000 in the 2018 budget already. Just an additional 34,000 in the 2019 added to it. And that's, I would say, to move us to the 21st century, those expenses.
So
We
you're-
had, excuse me, you say we had 53,425, where was it at?
Mainly in the Hill Country software.
Oh, okay. It wasn't in your budget, it was in other budgets?
Right,
Right.
correct.
That's what I was gonna say, we need to make sure and reduce those budgets. If you, as a court, decide to approve this, well, either way, if we're already paying for it, we need to reduce it from the other budgets.
I didn't want to give y'all sticker shock that all of a sudden you're asking for $90,000 worth of new software when 54,000 of that was already allocated last year to different departments. I tried
Okay.
to show that. There are some increases, but I think they're justified based on us trying to move forward in the county and bring up to the latest technology.
So we'll have to look for that, or have y'all already taken it out in here?
No.
No, it hasn't been taken out in here as of yet. When I continue to work on this
Mhm.
for all the departments, I will go through and somehow or other tell
Okay.
you what needs to be reduced.
Well, and that, again, that would be hard for like the Adobe if some people already have that.
I'm just gonna worry about Hill Country right now. That's all I'm gonna worry about is Hill Country, because that's the only one that I know that, who has it.
Okay.
Now, I can get with Greg and he can tell me who has these others. And, I can try to let you know on that.
Okay.
Any other questions about software? Cell phones, I've requested a cell phone for Andrew so that we can get in touch with him as he's traveling around the different offices. Travels and conferences, there's only, I'd like to be able to attend the LGS conference, which is the Hill Country Conference, which is in August, I believe, of this year.
That's this year's budget, though.
That'll be this year.
Yeah. I don't know how I'll attend this year, but we'll figure that out. The TGA, TAG ITM conference next year. And there's a cybersecurity conference they had, I think it was in Atlanta or Vegas last year. It's a good government cybersecurity conference to go to. They talk about all the latest threats. At that conference I was at last week, or that before the Texas House, from the highest government levels, the Brigadier General was talking about cybersecurity at the military level, from Washington DC on down to the little Grimes County being represented. Number one issue is cybersecurity, because it can wipe out an organization in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
And there's liability too, like for instance, City of McKinney got hit and they had to pay $250,000 in credit monitoring for the residents of City of McKinney because they got their systems were compromised. That would really hurt our county if we had a $250,000.
We heard a little bit about it in February.
Yeah.
Not that we understood, okay?
Machinery and equipment, 505.
Mhm. And we just changed that number, didn't we, Jen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So now the difference, did that difference increase or decrease? It increased by
increased.
14,000?
Yeah, and it decreased rentals and contracts by 14,000.
14,728.15.
14, 7, 28, 14, okay. 118?
Now, the projector was bought in this year's budget, but we need another projector for next year's budget, or is it just showing what?
Oh, no, it's just showing what was used last year. I should have taken that out.
So it'll be, that total would be,
15,000,
yeah.
or 15.
Where you at? Oh, you were reading.
Yeah, the
machinery and
machinery and
equipment.
equipment, I inadvertently put the projector in there when that's already been purchased.
so would that 21,000 actually be minus the 1,500? Okay. So then that 35,728 would actually be
About
34,228.
34,2, something like that. $34,228. I've worked with Michelle, I've worked with Tuck and Ronnie. There's some adjustments that need to be done to the AV equipment in the courthouse. Because the way that they wanna use whisper mics, that system doesn't work with the whisper mics. They need to add additional jacks for mics for the court reporter, at the, not at the bench, but at the jury pool area. It will require replacing some of the equipment. We got them to give us estimates for that. So for the courthouse, it was about $10,000 to replace that AV equipment. And for the commissioner's court, about $7,000 to change the way the mics and stuff work in here. Let's see. Printers. Let's see, let's see. I'm missing the detail for the printers.
We've got 10 low-capacity printers, 25, 30,
What's behind the,
5 high-capacity printers, 2,500. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm missing it in my sheet for some reason.
You had it right behind the budget request form.
Oh, okay, here it is. What I'm seeing based on, as I'm going around these offices, some of the old printers, some of them are pretty old and they're huge. They take up a lot of space, put off a lot of heat, use a lot of electricity, et cetera. But they're reaching their end of life, and so we're replacing with more economical, they use the printer toner better. They're just gonna, I can anticipate we're probably gonna have to replace 10 of the low end units. We're talking $200 a printer, the low. And there's already a request for 2 high-capacity printers that we could probably push off until next year. So, just wear and tear maintenance throughout the year, I can see we're gonna have to probably replace 15 printers this coming year.
and are there some still on?
You have printed, you don't have a copy.
The lease agreements too that we're gonna be coming off for?
I don't think we have any printers on
Printers.
these.
No.
I think it's only
It's just
5
the
copiers.
Just the copiers,
Okay.
yeah, I think so.
And some people print through their copiers.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's right.
Computer hardware. And this, again, this is based on, if you were to buy all the computers for the county today, how long would they last and when would you have to replace them? The average expectancy is about 3 to 5 years. So even if you carried it out 5 years, you've got 125 computers. If you extrapolate that over 5 years, you've got to replace about 20 computers, a little over 20 computers every year. And so you can't say, well, we're just gonna buy computers and have to buy them again. So this 15 computers is based on what I see and based on the life of some of the computers. We've got computers that are over 10 years old that are still being used. So this number is based on my best estimate of how many we think we're gonna have to replace this year. I'm hoping it's not gonna be more than that, but I don't know. I think that's a pretty good number. We've already replaced quite a few this year. We're taking computers that have good capacity in them, that are good, they're maybe just slow, and we're putting $70 hard drives in them, and it breathes 3 times the life into them. So for a $70 fix on some of these, we don't have to replace the whole computer. We can put a $70 investment into it and get another 3 years life out of that machine. So we're trying to do that as well. We did 2 machines today that way. Laptops, there's not a big need for laptops in the county, but the ones I've looked at are very old. You know, I know I've got 3 that I need to replace sometime soon. They're about that thick and they're heavy, and they've reached their useful life.
And how many how many PCs was that?
15 desktop computers and 5 laptops is what I'm anticipating we'll probably have to replace between October of this year to October next year.
You've got that, one budgeted for the 2 servers in 2018. Is that included in that total, 124?
I didn't get to amend the budget in 2018 for those 2 servers, so I haven't purchased them yet. I haven't asked for a budget amendment yet.
Oh, okay.
So-
Do what you need to get them before the,
I don't know yet. It's all gonna depend on what we can do on the network and what part of this budget gets approved for some of the other stuff.
Okay.
And there's a slight chance we might have some money left over. We could buy one of the servers this year.
How much are the
Leftover
servers
money.
costing?
They're about 15 to 18,000, depending on the configuration per server. The idea was to have one primary server and one active passive server. So if that one fails, the other one takes over, but it's fully strong enough to,
I can contribute 9,000 out of my budget to one of those.
okay. That will be a big help. I'll take it. We're getting requests for more and more storage. Right now, I'm out of storage at sheriff's office. They're, you know, body cams, car cams, all that stuff. They've got 4 terabytes now, but it's full. They need an additional 4, plus we need terabyte storage once we move to our servers for files, et cetera, for the county. So that's what that 6,000, that's
Are
right.
the digitizing the records out of the county clerk's office gonna have an impact?
Yeah, that'll have a huge impact, and we'll need even more storage for that.
We're about ready to get started on that, I think. That's gonna be a big,
I
And
don't
is-
think David will get started on it.
It's in his budget for next year.
well, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Well, when I meant we're about to get started, I'm talking about
Okay.
1-1.
Is your cloud, are we on the computer hardware?
Yes.
yeah, it's been
It's on-
supposed to be getting started for
Cloud's
3,
on here?
as long as I've been here.
Or what are we looking
How long
at?
is that?
The only thing we use for cloud is our backup right now,
Mhm.
and that's on a separate, it's not hardware, it's on a separate option,
Okay.
yeah. We were spending about 20,000, 22,000 a year on cloud backup before. Now we're only spending about 3,000. So we were able to reduce that by quite a bit. So the 15,000 is for additional storage. I anticipate we're probably gonna have to replace 10 monitors in the next year. So we got 120 of them throughout the county. 10% is a pretty good attrition rate that we'll probably go through. Like I said, these 40 hard drives, I've already replaced, I think 5 that have failed this year so far. Some of these hard drives we'll use, as I was mentioning, put them into a computer and it triples the speed of it. Part of these hard drives will be used for that. So I anticipate we're gonna have failures, we're gonna have upgrades. So I put the number of 40 in there. That's one-third of our computers. Some of them have double drives, so. Scanners, I've already had to replace 2 scanners this year. We've got a couple more that are pretty old, but, you know, it depends on what we do with LGS, what departments other departments we bring into this. So I anticipate we'll probably need 5 scanners next year. The sheriff's offices have requested 4 of the tough books they put in the police cars. Those are about $3,000 a PC or laptop. They requested 4 for next year. This is a big one that I don't know about. Cameras for the jail. been working with Lieutenant Caswell, but we don't have an exact number of how many cameras we need. And there's some talk of putting in a system that we could carry to the new building and what that software cost and hardware cost is. So I don't have an exact number on that yet. Cause I'll need to get with Lieutenant Caswell, find out exactly how many cameras, get a bid. I'm guessing between the cameras and the software, we're talking probably between $75,000 and $100,000. So, did everybody understand that? I went to spend about 75 to 100,000 for our cameras and software to do what the jail needs. But we could carry that to the new facility.
Does the jail have money for that, out of any of their grants or the?
I think Caswell said that they do, but I don't remember how much it was. It wasn't near that. I think it was like 25. or
If it's going to the
30,000.
new building, wouldn't that be, come out of security, courthouse security?
Why
don't
would,
know.
why would courthouse security is different than the jail? The jail, you can't use courthouse security money.
But I
in
mean,
the jail.
if it's part of the tunnel that we're gonna
Proposed.
use to move inmates from the jail to the courthouse, we should be able to use some of that money for
Yeah.
that.
You might be able to.
Yeah.
So this equipment's not gonna be installed in the jail? I mean, I didn't understand that.
What
If
they
it's-
wanna do is the system they have now is antiquated and the cameras are old and antiquated. They're black and white, they need color, they need higher resolution, so they're gonna replace X number of cameras in the jail today to meet compliance by the state. There's some areas they don't have visibility, they need visibility.
And part of it has to do with that Sandra Bland Act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of it is the software is old and antiquated, and it can't do what they need it to do, so they were gonna take the opportunity to upgrade the software along with getting additional cameras. And the hope was, the system that we choose would be big enough to take care of the new building and the jail in one system. Buy it now to just function for the jail.
For the system, but not the cameras. The cameras will
Right.
stay in the jail.
Right.
Because they're, I
So
mean,
the
the,
system could probably, at least part of that could be used for
We could,
courtroom
yeah,
security.
we could tie, when the new building got
Maybe.
built, we could tie the cameras
Portion
in the
of
new
it anyway.
building into
Yeah.
the
but
software
see, if
system.
they're talking about purchasing it now, you're not gonna be able to pay with the Fund 44 funds. Because you don't have a building.
Yeah.
And so that wouldn't work at what you're trying to do. Now, if our building was already up and they were
Then we
trying to
could
do,
do it.
then you could, but there, you can't
You
do
can in the
that.
future that it will be for that, but if it's not for that right now.
Right,
But it
right.
will be used for that later.
That doesn't matter, but nice try. So,
Can't let
but,
you break the
The
law.
idea was to give the jail, since they monitor the security cameras today anyway, that they would monitor all the cameras at the courthouse, at the jail, at the new building. That
the
we
new
have-
building, but not this courthouse.
Right,
Yeah.
that we would have the security people.
So a portion of it, if it's to monitor the courtroom,
uh,
that, part of that could be used for
The
security.
new courtroom,
The new courtroom,
not
not
the
this
old
one.
one.
Well,
Oh,
they wanna tie the
they wanna
cameras
tie it
that are
into that
currently
one
there
as well.
today into this new system that
be
we
back
bought as
Wednesday?
well. So if they have one
Ah.
console, that they can monitor the courthouse, the jail, and the new building from one set of monitors.
So
Oh.
that might be a percentage factor, if
Yeah.
part of it can
Right.
be used for that.
Right,
and-
if you're currently gonna use it, yes.
We'll have to discuss that.
figure where we come with
detail
some of
with
that money.
Caswell.
But they're also paying part-time positions with those funds too, commissioners. I mean, y'all, it's not like nothing, is it?
Oh, no, oh, no.
I had mentioned to the judge, and I think I mentioned y'all in the, state of the IT meeting that I had with you, we have some very old switches that need to be replaced. I'm gonna try to replace some of those in this year's budget, depending on how much money I can save and squeeze out by the end. But there are additional network switches needed, because we're using very old, outdated, home-based type network gear that needs to be
Greg?
more professional.
I'll interrupt you real quick. That $9,000 that I said I can give you, I have $9,000 in my budget right now, machinery and equipment, that I can move over to his machinery and equipment to start buying this stuff
In this year's budget,
in this year's budget.
that'd be awesome.
You just fools.
Merry Christmas.
So,
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, happy birthday, anniversary.
Well, Well, and there could be some other departments that have budgeted in the past before, without, you know, that we might have skipped for printers or whatever, and Mike can kind of find a lot of that as well. this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna, in preparation for when we sit down with the judge, I'm gonna try to
Maybe Thursday.
have more information available to him about what the traditions are, you know?
And not to cut you off either, but you're 30 minutes past, so just
Oh,
keeping everybody.
I just already know we're not going at 4.
Yeah. No, we just had Kat sitting out there, so I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure and bring that to everybody.
I bet Kathy's told you.
I was gonna text her, but I have no contacts in
She's
my
right
phone.
here, she's right there.
I put miscellaneous hardware in there because sometimes I just don't know what I'm gonna need. Is there a specialized tool I'm gonna need? Is there, mics that I'm gonna need? I just put a miscellaneous in there.
We don't use miscellaneous, so we use specialized tools.
Specialized tools.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Because if somebody sees that,
yeah,
they go.
miscellaneous hardware, yeah, just rename that for sure.
We have miscellaneous in the 2 district judges and in Brenda Williams. And the only reason we have that Brenda Williams is because she covers, approves, pauper burials for the county. But I'm gonna ask for mine to be reinstated in non-departmental.
The last 5 items were brought to me by Michelle for the court reporter, the need for the court reporter in the courts. There's a recorder, voice translation software, dictation software, a foot pedal, and a sound card.
Now, that's with any of them that come in and use it, or is this specific to one person they're asking for?
She didn't say.
A full-time position.
Yeah.
If they're gonna be, they're looking for a new full-time court reporter position, to my understanding. And so this equipment would be if you approve the full-time court, I believe.
And if we don't approve a full-time court reporter,
Then I would think they would bring in their own their own foot pedal, their own, I mean,
Okay, cause I didn't know, I had
Because that's
never
part
heard
of
of
the
it in the
contract, yeah,
past.
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
But
point of
here's
it.
the thing, every county that has been audited by the IRS, if they are paying a court reporter, a visiting judge, or an interpreter through AP, they're having to pay fees, and if they don't pay them, then the IRS threatens to open 3 more years and assess fines on that as well, and then continue to look at you another 3 to 5 years down the road.
She said it went both ways though. There were counties that were also getting in trouble for the opposite way.
We might
Yeah.
wanna visit that when we're visiting that.
Mary Ann Signs would be a good one. I know
Yeah.
y'all brought Mary Ann Signs and the
Yes.
Commissioner's
Well,
Court, and that would be a good.
Williamson
person to
County is the only county that is fighting them. And so, everybody else has said, okay, we'll pay our fine and move on. So,
Okay. The next one is telephones. That's our contract to manage all of our phone system, provide us phones for all locations in the county. $100,000's been budgeted in the past. So far, we've used almost $48,000 this year. I anticipate we'll probably get close to that. Maybe not quite the 100,000, but you just never know with what goes on with that old phone system, so.
Will this amount be reduced by the lines you're gonna cut off?
No, this is, just for supporting the equipment.
Okay.
Those ticket calls that we have to turn in, if phone lines aren't working, et cetera.
Okay.
Okay. The website, Sierra, we were budgeting 5,000, but from what I understand, looking at the invoices, we pay about, I forget what it is monthly, but it's about 18,000 a year is what we have been being billed, so I don't know,
It'll be 15 a month.
what, yeah, I don't know why, I didn't see it on the GL as to where we're tagging.
It's out of 424.
But there's no experience, you have no experience as of right now.
Well, not on his.
On yours?
No, well, this is up in his budget, not in it.
That's
Oh, it's not gonna be on
424.
there.
It's 424.
I know, but I didn't put it when I moved stuff.
I tried to
over
base my budget number based on what I
Okay,
actually saw on the
424.
invoices we've been receiving.
Okay.
Let's see.
That's-
What line
that's the
item
best
was
way.
that?
That's what we're really
407.
paying.
Right.
There's nothing.
The line item we're looking at is 424,0407.
Okay,
Well-
yeah, I don't have any experience
Right.
of it being charged to that line item, so I don't know where the bills are going.
Yeah, I don't either.
It wasn't in
And-
424?
I know we're paying like,
It could be that it's coming out of rentals and contracts 405 because I'm showing 25. No, that wouldn't be it either, I don't think.
I saw it one time out of 424.
like I said, I think the invoice is showing about 1,500 a month.
I don't know, I don't guess I've seen one of the invoices.
I assume we're paying.
Just don't know where it's coming yet, we'll figure that out.
'Cause I-
Website
honestly, I don't know.
services, you're paying it in 42404. Is that the same? Sierra, website service?
Well, there's Sierra Mail and then there's Sierra Website.
This
Service.
is website. You got a different one, say Sierra email
Yeah,
in 424. And then 424,
Yeah, but that, web
07.
service, I don't show any, activity, but this was through, what, April?
and it was one bill.
April
Well,
12th.
I don't know if
April
that's
the
right.
11th.
do we, I guess we pay monthly for the Sierra, it's not a one-time annual fee, I don't think. I think it's.
I think it's
is it-
supposed to be, quarterly or something.
Is the 15 quarterly?
I believe it was monthly.
I honestly don't know, I haven't seen the
I'll
bill,
have
so
to,
I
we'll
haven't.
have to request an invoice. I'll do that. I'll, request, a year's billing records. Internet, this is what we pay for our fiber connection. It's about, 4,000 a month is what we pay for our internet connection. BV Cog is coming, and we're part of the BV Cog group. They have already told us that they could substantially cut our fiber costs. They didn't give us a figure, but we told them what we're paying now, and they said we could go smaller. I said, well, if you can go much lower, we'll seriously look at using it. But I am recommending that we keep a backup connection of US Phone, because if we lose that one internet connection, then all offices are down. If we had a backup line, it doesn't have to be full speed, but just something that could keep the sheriff's office open. But I'm estimating that circuit probably costs us $1,000 a month.
Well, it's supposed to be a full loop, so even if something's cut on one loop, you're not down very long at all, so you can come around the other side.
Yeah, it'll be, yeah, it would have to be a major cut like near the tower out there,
Mhm.
where they come in and loop around.
Yeah.
It'd have to be something out there, but yeah. I don't anticipate we'll have any trouble, but it's just insurance, $1,000 a month for insurance for a backup circuit, but it's not necessary. I've operated lots of IT departments.
Well, if it
without
kept us
backup
from
circuits.
being down 4 hours, it'd be worth the insurance for the productivity we generate. So, okay.
We could definitely look at it and see what, because US Phone said, we understand that BV Cog's coming in, we're working with them, we know y'all are probably gonna leave us. But I said, well, we're looking at a backup circuit. He said, we'll make you a good deal, so we'll see how it goes. Security panic buttons. I apologize, I don't have, I got this at last minute, and I don't have exactly what we're paying for panic buttons today? Do you know what we're paying, Mary?
I believe it's like $50 or $60 per department or per building, I can't remember, for them.
Per month?
Per month.
I know we have 20-something panic buttons.
There's 3 in my office.
Yeah, they sent us a list and I matched it with what HR had. Need some clarification on a few, but it seems like there's 22 panic buttons that we have, but I don't know the exact price of what we're paying ADT.
But we don't, at the moment, we don't know where they go though, right?
Right.
Sheriff's office
Because
may
they
have
were-
the list of where they are, because
Well, but the buttons have been passed around and nobody updated the sheet.
they shouldn't have passed them around.
Because when I compared the sheet that ADT had that they got from the previous security company, some of them didn't match. Most of them did, but some of them didn't. And so that's where we were gonna do an audit, have them come out and check each button, because we found one panic button that the batteries were dead, didn't even work. And so they were gonna come out, audit each button, make sure they work, press them, have them call the sheriff's office and go through the full test to make sure they work. But they were gonna charge us for it, but they wouldn't give us a quote yet as to what that would be.
I know we have in every office,
Yeah, yeah, there's some.
maybe one, I think we less one, and I want to see it was $30.
It used to be.
Okay, yeah, before.
It's
AT&T.
gone up.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's gone up.
So you think that's what the cost would be for the annually?
yeah, probably.
All right.
Yeah, I laid that on him this morning.
The BB wax, Mary and I talked, and we think that needs to fall under my department. It's our annual membership, $29,555. It's our annual membership, it's just managing the contract for that. That's our membership would be part of BB wax. And then the Siri email, that's what we pay today for our email for the county, not the sheriff's. I assume the sheriff's, I haven't gotten any other information from the sheriff on their mail system, but they want to, I think they pay $600 a year for their mail system. And they want to, at some point, roll that under our control. They've already given us access to the systems and everything. But again, I want to move the sheriff, all of ours under that Office 365 mail system so we can control it better, limit the spam, all those kind of things. But this is just to cover Siri email.
Until you have a chance to.
Do we have a
fig-
chance to migrate to the new system?
And
Which
so-
is in the budget in the other place.
So these two things were in 424.
Yes.
There's several things on
Yeah.
this, thing that had been in 424, and I've reduced 424's
Okay.
request.
I just
by
wanted to
almost line.
make sure we were looking at the same thing.
Yeah, there's quite a few things that were moved from 424.
Cloud backup probably.
Moved into IT. So
And-
that's why there's such a large jump from last year's budget to this year's budget, because
We're-
big portions of that.
We're not surprised. We just didn't know what all it was gonna encompass. Okay, we're not surprised.
Any other questions for me?
We'll just be able to fine tune it
I
as
think
more
there could
stuff
be about
comes in and figure out. what's going on.
$267,000 that I cut out of the non-departmental budget just to go into his.
Yeah, should be quite a bit.
I just didn't want y'all to have sticker shock saying, well, I went from 200 to 700 when a large, 500,000.
Was
that
moving
just
everything over.
moving up.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I'll run to the restroom if we don't mind. Did we miss our break?
Oh, we just did a long time ago.
Oh, we
You
were.
missed the grab right over cat.
Well, y'all go ahead.
Yeah,
Hello, Kathleen.
sorry, Kat.
I couldn't text you, I had to contact you.
Oh, they're not in there?
That's done there.
Yeah, I guess we should have finished it for, so we won't get stuck here till 9 with this thunderstorm.
You're welcome. And seriously, I'll give you that
Scholarship. There too. Oh, yeah.
Hello again.
Hi, how was the conference last week? We're going to be talking about,
I don't know which one y'all wanna do first.
can we just stay in order and do 9/11 first, which is your 863, and then 488, and then 483? So I guess in reverse number order. 680. 683.
So that 1,500 for the web hosting is it's 1,500, but it's for a year. It's not on a monthly basis. That we were just talking about in IT. So I'll get with Greg and
All right.
thank you.
That sounds better.
Unless we're missing something, but
Well, Sheree, haven't we processed a $1,500 Sierra charge for email through my office?
It's
Well,
on-
email is
it's one of
there's an email.
There shouldn't be $1,500 a month on that.
No, but I remember a $1,500 one.
It's a $1,500
in this
bill.
quarter. But I don't remember what it said on it.
Okay.
So it could be a quarter, $1,500.
That's just when I saw it, that's how my mind works.
It's one in the experience.
Ms. Catley, the floor is yours.
Fine.
So, 911,
43.
in expenses, the only thing that I, would like to increase is repair and maintenance on my vehicle. As you can see, we went over, I had to do some repairs, I had to replace some cabin filters and other things. Basically, my truck couldn't breathe. And we did not replace the O2 sensor, we just cleaned it, so that O2 sensor needs to be replaced and it could go out anytime it wants to, basically. So that's why I asked for increase. In my vehicle maintenance. And then actually decreased dues and subscriptions, because the only dues and subscriptions that I have coming out of that budget line this year will be $150 for Keep Texas Beautiful. It was increased last year because of my license renewal. For my DR license was $111.
What is your number again? I'm sorry.
34,863.
34.
Right in front of that tab of Fund 35.
In front of it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, since we combined departments, did something change up at the top? I mean,
On 911.
mhm.
My title changed.
The title changed, but this is where we'll find her salary in this particular budget.
124. 34,863, 124, and we'll
Okay.
change her title as well.
Okay.
Was there another vehicle, I guess, we got since we combined positions? Did the environmental have a vehicle also?
Environmental has a vehicle also, but it'll come out of their budget.
Right.
And for the, solid waste, we're, whatever vehicle's there for her to use, either mine or environmental, that's what,
But you still need to utilize two different ones. I mean, somebody else is still gonna have to go assist, I guess. Okay.
Now, I know that she was on the agenda, was it last week?
Yes.
And I don't know at what point we talk about that, cause we said we were gonna come back
We
to
can't do
it.
it here because it's not on the agenda for today, I don't think.
Well,
Talking
it
about
has to be-
salaries
well,
and
yeah.
increases.
Are you talking about her salary, or
Yeah.
is that what we're kind of in? You can discuss that today. There's no action today. It's a workshop, and
Yeah,
it's
it's a
part of the
budget.
budget.
It's part of
And
the budget.
so, if you would like to discuss it, you're more than welcome to discuss it.
Cause she wasn't, you weren't here, and it was on the agenda, and we'd have a chance to talk with you, so I'm just saying, I don't know at what point.
Did we table that?
We did.
To the next meeting? Did we designate that?
Well, we tabled it, yeah, for the next meeting. I mean, if we've gotta go through Commissioners Court to approve an increase.
You do have to go before Commissioners Court,
Okay.
but this would be a perfect
But this
opportunity
is
to get on the
right.
same
Right now is the
page.
time to get our thoughts out
Yeah.
and decide what we're gonna present at Commissioners Court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you happen to know how much we have left in the salary budget from the because by reducing one department head, there was that cost savings, but then we also added the full-time employee.
Right, so
from
there was
part-time.
nothing left.
Okay, so it was a wash on that?
Yes, I think we had to come up, didn't we?
Actually
Yes.
have a copy of.
Oh, do
Yeah,
you? I was not
thank you.
prepared for.
I forgot mine too, but I know we were in the red.
Okay, so we had to take $1,800 from fund balance to fund that part-time position that was requested
Okay, thank
this
you.
year. So there is nothing remaining. If you are, but on this, it depends on what you're looking at. We should only be discussing next year's salary,
Yeah,
not this year's salary.
Yeah.
This is not the time to discuss that, I don't believe. But if you come up with next year's, then that gives y'all a basis of what you're gonna be discussing next week.
for this year.
Or you can, I mean, it's,
Is it on agenda, upcoming agenda?
Yep,
is it?
it should be, I think. No?
Just said tabled and did not get a date, so it can be.
Okay.
Well, it was
I'd like to have it on there.
Sure.
for this week or the
A little
upcoming?
bit, next week.
Cause we talked about doing also the evaluation. Remember John C. suggested that at the same time, to do the evaluation. You weren't here, were you?
No, ma'am.
He suggested at that time that we evaluate while we're talking about things and where we're going.
Washington DC, you answered.
That's okay. Okay, so I guess we can revisit that. I just wanted to bring that up, that we did table that.
Well, your department had one currently.
Yes.
Your current rate of pay is,
Oh,
I was gonna ask them.
her, it's
21.
on page 4, page
44,
4.
6.
So she currently gets $21.47 an hour.
It's behind her stuff.
so current rate of pay is 21.47.
Yes.
All right. And we have a fair amount of latitude.
You have tenure?
Yes.
Yes.
Way more.
This January will be 25 years.
All right.
So a
That
dollar,
was just a setup.
a
Don't
dollar
worry about
$20,
it.
$1.20 of that 21.47 is tenure money, right?
Well, it wasn't set up in.
No, actually, my
Back then.
tenure, the year I was supposed to get my tenure, nobody got raises. So actually didn't get my tenure until a year later.
But you do have it in
Yeah.
there. So to answer your question, the $1.20, yes, is tenure is included. So she's really at 20, what,
She's at the,
27?
at the minimum of a department head one.
Yes, 27 cents over.
How long have you been in charge of 911
15 years,
As
since
a de- as a
2004,
department
I
head?
think,
as a department head?
yes.
Your bosses didn't like you or what?
Well, we didn't have a
We
structure
finally,
back then.
started the structure.
We didn't have a structure back then.
We didn't have a pay scale either.
No, we didn't. I came from county clerk,
Mhm.
so I just moved over, there wasn't a pay increase.
Okay. And the merit raise, that was for the employee, right? Yeah.
The merit, yeah.
Part-time employee.
Yes. And Jesse can explain. Well,
Do what?
what we're, I'm gonna do a change of status for Nikki, to use that money
Yes.
that was in there for Mike.
Yeah, because he
Right.
was hired this year,
Right.
right? So, basically, in our policy, it states, what you're supposed to do is if y'all approve merit raises like you did this year, I'm supposed to get a change of status form at the beginning of the year of how they wanna use it, who they wanna give it to or whatnot. She had an incident where the person that she was gonna give the raise to, he passed away. And then she hired someone within this year. So she still has that money in the merit raise in order to give him that increase because she didn't want to start him out at the highest he could make. She wanted to see a probationary period, if you will. And so she feels like he is due that increase. So she's going to give him that increase this year. And that's why she's not asking for increase next year, right? Right.
Okay. So you just need to have that change of status form filled out, and we need to approve it in Commissioners Court?
No.
It's already approved in the
Yep,
budget.
It was approved by
So
Commissioners
you as a
Court.
department head, you fill it out, you pass it by the auditor, and then the HR, or vice versa.
HR and then.
You
she
give it to
HR,
us.
then the auditor, and they send it to Treasury and it's done, right?
Yes. And so if we, the sooner the better on that one.
So what kind of increase is that for him?
For him?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
I forget what it is for him.
How many, we said he worked 1040 hours is what,
Yes.
because you thought it
Yeah,
was a
but
little
he doesn't
different.
work.
Well, yeah, because he only works,
How many hours does he work?
he works 19 hours a week for me.
988, yes, that's right, I remember that. Okay, so 10,502, 2.44,
Nikki works 19 hours a week for me, and he works 10 hours a week for Road and Bridge. But we, he uses my truck, my tools.
But is his pay in Road and Bridge also?
Yes, his pay is in Road and Bridge also.
Okay, so currently he's at 1050, and then you're moving him up to 1063.
1063?
Yes, that's how much the merit raise was for.
It was for $128.40.
That's all they gave me.
13 cents, right.
That's because the merit raises ended up only being a little over 1%.
We didn't have a lot of money to work with.
Right, we had a decrease.
We had to, right. I
It's
mean,
all
if there
gonna
was.
hinder on what it comes up with this year.
Yes, yes.
We do,
They did the best of, the best of it.
right, right.
Okay, so you're gonna take care of the necessary paperwork, get that done, all right?
Next department?
Next,
188's next.
488.
I mean, 488.
488.
give us 20 minutes to find it, we'll be right with you.
I went right to it. Yeah. It's lucky.
What's your lottery number tonight?
I forget that.
488,
Yes.
behind the Fund 20 tab.
No.
No, no,
No,
go
it
back to
should
your
be.
In front of it,
451.
a couple of,
10, 488.
Oh.
But it's close to the Fund 20 tab. It's just before it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I am asking for increases for, Stephen Biggs and John Ray Maxwell. For the amount of time that they've been here, they're making $983. Both of, Steve's making $983, John Ray's making $982. If you look at everyone else's salary that I have on staff, they're making well above that. And I just feel like that's, for the quality of work that those two gentlemen do, they need to be compensated for that. And their tenure is longer than some of the other ones that we've had. And those other people are actually making way more.
They're part-time employees?
Yes.
Page 404 if you wanna look at what everyone else is making.
Yeah, I mean, you can see I have one lady that's been here, she's making $13 an hour, she's been here since 2010. And if you look, John Ray's been here since, 2001, and he's making $982.
So our new hires came in higher than
Higher.
our,
Ooh, how did that, yeah, how
And
did that?
some of
Cause
them
that,
were-
cause those were the minimum come
Well,
in, or is that, how did that work?
when Ms. Stringer was here, I think if you look, some of them, she would give some raises and not others. So that's how some of their salaries got increased.
Well, and also they were given merit raises last year, 784, and
Yeah.
She did
they
the same
didn't.
thing.
yeah.
Cause it's basically doing all of them do the same jobs, right, at the
Yes.
solid waste.
And I'm sorry, you wanna take them to what?
1025.
25.
1025?
Yeah, we actually have one person there at 13, huh?
Yes, and that's a part-time person that does Stoneham and Whitehall. And these two employees, they do on their days off, if I have, on the days they're not working, if I have someone they need to go fill in, they go fill in for me. In Iola, Vitas, or wherever need be.
Well, they all should, you know, doing the same job based on longevity, it should be closer to the same price for sure, salaries.
And if they're worth keeping, then you wanna consider some type of an increase.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and then, on, expenses, machinery and equipment, I don't know if you've been in our offices, but the desks in there, the couple desks don't have, door fronts or drawer fronts on them. And they're made out of the particle board. We've drilled them out as much as we can, and we can't stick them back on. And I know those desks have been there since Randy Duke was there, and that's been, 13, 14 years. I went online and we looked at, oh, I'm sorry, I done hopped around.
I was
Wrong
gonna say,
budget.
I'm lost.
Wrong budget, sorry. Sorry, I have 3.
The budget.
This is
I know, wrong
AC.
budget.
Oh, the AC.
The AC unit.
Yes.
$800, for AC units. We have AC units for, 2 of the new buildings that we've done. One's already installed at Keith, and then I have one, for, Iola. The air conditioning units in Anderson, it's not going very well. I mean, it just keeps it cool in there. It doesn't keep it cool. And these units are heat and air, that we're looking at. It's the same unit that we got for the new buildings. And BDOS also, is gonna need a new heat and air unit also. Junior actually was sitting in there with the door open, and it was 90-something degrees in there Saturday, so,
Are you still on 488?
yes.
Okay.
It was me that hopped around.
And I do
I got
have,
confused on where I was.
I do have a question.
Mhm.
You don't have this on your sheet, but you've got office buildings for dump sites. We're replacing 2 buildings?
3.
We just replaced one in this
replaced
budget. Okay.
And we will replace 2 more in the
In
this year's
bu-
budget,
In this
yes.
year's budget.
So 2 more will be in here.
No,
No,
it'll be within
no,
this
no.
budget.
Fiscal year 18, what we're currently in.
Okay, what we're currently in. So this
It's a
is being
negative.
reduced.
Yeah.
So we won't do any more buildings.
No,
Eliminated.
not for
Okay, cause that's what I was wondering. So we're doing 3 in the current budget we have. Okay.
By the way, did you discuss with Abraham purchase versus him build, or is it the same
It's-
price?
It's gonna be cheaper for us to purchase.
Okay, is that what we're gonna do then?
Yes, I actually had, and I haven't had time to sit down with her yet, I actually had Claudia getting some quotes and things for me while I was gone, so.
Okay. So Abraham hadn't purchased materials or anything for those buildings, has he? Okay.
And his was what, 32, 36, what was it?
36, I believe,
36.
and he said he couldn't do that for
For the
that
next-
price,
okay.
on this one.
All right.
Okay. And what is the price on the garbage bag stickers?
$1.
$1? Is that still a good price?
I think it's a good price. We're still
think we're still
making,
making money, I
17,
think, on it.
18,000 off of that a year. Somewhere in there.
And we definitely don't want them to end up on the side of the road
No.
where it costs us
Don't
more
wanna
money
make
to
it
send
too
somebody to
expensive.
pick them up.
No, yeah. I dropped off a lady yesterday evening, there were about 9 to 11 garbage bags. All just dumped there on 1774 south of 105. Like to go do it myself and find out who they belong to.
Sheriff
If
will
it
look.
was on a
look-
county road, that's what we
No,
would
they're
do.
on state,
Mhm.
that's the state road, that's them.
But I think we talked about the issue with that is, what if I paid somebody to go take them to the dump and then you dump them on the side of the road, you know?
Yeah, it kinda gets
It gets
into a
muddy.
catch-22 kinda thing.
And we had that down there. What's that road we cleaned up down there?
202.
I don't-
303.
I didn't mean to rabbit trail you, just,
324, the one that goes past the back of the Renaissance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these got dumped right before Maryland Bettis.
but we had somebody down there that dumped some trash and had medicine bottles, and if they had paid somebody to clean up a fire evidently.
Hmm.
Contractor loaded that up and came out there and dumped it on the road. Came out of Waller County.
Good contract.
This is permits and inspections.
One more?
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity.
43.
Yes, 43. And I was asking for a merit raise for Claudia. Through the transition, I learned that Claudia is very smart. She's very capable and, staying on, being very loyal. I feel like that should be rewarded.
I see where you have a merit raise in here. Was this last year for somebody else? I mean,
Where?
I see, or what is
That was
this?
on 48.
Oh, okay, so the 1,040 is what she's asking for this year.
1,040?
Uh-huh.
That's what she's asking for this year.
Okay.
That department was not given merit raises.
I looked at the wrong color. I got you.
Oh,
So that's 50 cents an hour.
Yes.
I did that in my head, by the way.
You're good.
2080, 1,040, 2080, 1,040, huh?
Worked out on one of the easy ones.
On expenses, again, there was not, anything in the line item for repairs and maintenance on the, environmental vehicle. I mean, there wasn't anything in there for oil changes and just regular maintenance. I'm asking for $600, for oil changes and just regular upkeep maintenance, on that vehicle. We have a little, I think,
What's the other repairs and maintenance?
anything on
Just,
any other than vehicle. Well, and also the IT pays for repairs and maintenance, like on
Well-
the technology.
Yeah, but there's no technology in the garbage. Oh, this is license supplements.
yeah, I have no clue, I don't know.
It wasn't,
Unless it was repairs and maintenance for the vehicle, but if it, I don't know. Maybe that's what you.
so you've
Well,
got
we had
two
to do- We had
lines.
to do some, work on the vehicle, so there's, I think Marissa had moved some monies around, and put that $590, I think, to cover.
How are the tires and tubes on there? There should be tires and tubes listed.
$800.
Yeah.
They're on the back page.
But,
There's been, how much was spent on work? That kind of is a question I'd like to know too, because y'all only spent $94 in the repairs and maintenance,
I
and
have-
that's $2,000.
I have no clue, unless that's, oh, repairs and maintenance, nope, that's environmental. I was gonna say on the building.
yeah,
That's
I
not
figured
right.
it'd be buildings.
Um,
But there could probably be,
like I said, I
you
have
know,
I have no clue what that was in.
So we'll
That
look
budget
into
for-
that line item, and that could help.
yeah, remove one of them probably if we don't really have any, I don't
Yeah.
think it would be any repairs and maintenance on anything.
Other
But other than the vehicle.
Unless the software,
That would be all Greg now.
Yeah.
I didn't know if the updated, from last year's budget, maybe, just trying to figure out
But
what
it's
$2,000
Go ahead.
Just make sure 600's, adequate for all the, fuel changes and I don't know how many miles you put on there, so however many oil changes it would take or any other potential maintenance in there. If 600's adequate or, we can, 2,000 may be too much, but the 600 could be,
And on, 440, travels and conferences, there are 2 DRs now. Me and, Angela, potentially soon to be, we could have 3 DRs in our office. Claudia did take the class, but she has yet to pass her test. If she passes her test, here in a few weeks, we could potentially have 3 DRs in our
so
office.
is 1250 gonna be enough or?
So,
Did y'all have to do continuing education to keep your certification
Yes.
up?
yes, we do have to have hours for that.
Well, are we paying
So-
for her certification and
Yes.
testing? I mean,
You paid one fee, for originally to take to take the class and the test, and you could go back and take the class and the test 3 times. So,
So that that expenses may change then if there would be 3,
right, so I just upped it to,
because it looks like you've already spent 1147, so.
yeah.
And the amended budget was 1,800, so, well, that was for the training, I guess, and stuff like that.
Because actually, at last year's budget, Marissa actually sent Angela, through DR training and everything, which we all know she got her DR. And then she left and she sent Claudia. So that's where the extra expense kinda came in on that. So, but I feel like if we've already paid that expense for Claudia to go to class, we've already
Yeah,
paid that.
Need to finish it.
We'll just, she's got, 3 more chances to pass the test, and I feel like we've already paid that money, so we need to send her on to pass that test, and it's not an easy test to pass. They tell you when you walk into class, half of you'll pass, half of you'll fail.
That's
They
encouraging.
tell you that up front, so.
Yeah, the test I took was 35% of us passed.
So, I feel like I upped it from $1,250 to $2,000, and I feel like that would cover us from now on.
The travel and conference?
Yes.
Oh, I only have, I have $1,250.
You have 1250 written down right now, that's why I was asking if that's enough.
Let me see.
I guess I wrote that on my copy.
Okay.
I have it in here to increase it, but I guess,
Well, you know
I didn't
what?
put a
This
number
is-
on
So
there.
25,
So it's an increase of $750. Is that
And-
right?
So you wanted to 2,000?
Yes,
2,000 or 25? 22,000?
2,000.
2,000.
Cause you can see this is where we went over.
Yeah. That's why I was pointing that out. I was like, you sure 1250 is enough?
It's like-
Is there
Sorry.
another one that you have down as an increase?
No, that's it.
Okay.
then you have this.
Yes, and then that's where I come in with the desk. The machinery and equipment, 505, that's where their desks are all falling apart. And doesn't hold screws anymore, so we can't put doors back on. So I had them, we did some research and found desks that would work in that office. And I've already purchased, my new part-time employee, Lisa, a desk out of 911 budget. So,
Is this the reception style for one of them?
yeah, what I've got is, the L shape, just like, Claudia has now, except it has drawers, instead of just cabinets. And so we found those at, we looked at Office Max, we looked through Quill, and that's where we price compared and came up with a number for that.
So I remember y'all talking about people coming in, standing over you, and getting very vocal with you. Did you do the high side receptionist style?
We didn't do the high side.
What you say?
But that's. We
She's
looked
gonna
at
go
it.
get her CHL.
She said she'd
Yeah.
get vocal right back.
Well, that was Claudia.
Yeah.
She was,
When
felt
people come in,
like she was being very
people come in
intimidated
and they
by
kind
stand
of,
over.
if they don't sit down in the chair right there, and they kind of tend to stand over you.
Well, I just asked.
And then,
We'll put
we're
some
gonna-
tables or something in front of that desk so there's separation or something.
It's no room.
It's some, you've been in my office, you know, I stand up, so my desk is this high. And so I've got a buffer between me and I'm already standing, so, yeah. People get pretty vocal in the septic
You
department
could do
also.
that in that office like they have in the tax office too, just put you a little, counter in there where they come in.
Well, that's what we were talking about, if they
Set the
had the
desk.
high side
Set
to
the
where
desk
she's
up.
underneath it and they can,
Yeah.
but that's neither here nor there.
She could probably get, Mr. Love and his crew to make it. If you buy the materials, they'll make them.
It may work out better if she just tries to look for one and find a reasonable price one because of the way the office is situated. It's very tight in there as is, and you've got to leave space for handicap, it's, you know.
You know, Texas A&M
Access.
has a surplus store up there. Have y'all checked into that?
I hadn't been there in years.
I haven't either. I used to go there all the time to get stuff from them, actually for free years ago when I was still in prison. They had practice that ran in there. So when I'm in College Station, I'll run by there and check that out for you.
Who they let come in? Do they let anybody?
Well, they used to let school,
Government.
government
Okay.
entities, and they used to give that stuff away, but towards the end, they were
Selling
selling
it.
some. But it's pretty cheap.
Is that it on yours?
That is, I believe, that is it on mine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I'm open for suggestions, because I don't know what's the best way, but I've asked Jesse to give me a figure as to how much our payroll is. And then we can run a couple of numbers off of that, 1%, 2%, 2.5%, 3%, whatever we feel like we can afford. And once we decide on that number, then we can go back and we can divvy that back to departments, and they can administer it how they see fit in accordance with their evaluations. And my thought on that is, yes, ma'am.
Do y'all need anything out of my office before I lock it up?
No, ma'am.
I don't believe so.
No, thank you for asking.
Yes, sir.
You know, I don't know what the right way to handle it is, but, you know, y'all got a 10-point, we have a 10-point scale on our performance evaluation. And I'm of the opinion, anybody who's on their performance review is rated a 6 or less shouldn't be considered for an increase. And the reason I say that is, I believe based on the salary structure, we have people properly slotted. So a merit increase ought to be a merit increase, and they shouldn't get an increase unless they merit that increase. So anybody that's evaluated to 7, 8, 9, or 10, I think ought to be in consideration for that. That's just my old school of thought.
We had that discussion, didn't we, about some of the evaluations, and we were seeing scores all over the place.
Yeah.
And even this morning, when I revisited as far as the sheriff department asking for, to me, across the board, kind of like increase.
Mhm.
Then you go back and you look at some of the evaluations, and some of those people were scoring low.
Yeah.
Do you give them cost of living, what do you call it? I
Well,
mean, do
A
you,
cost of living adjustment, it doesn't matter what they're scored. Because
Right.
we've said, what we're saying is, okay, in order for us to keep our people, and because gas has gone up, electricity's gone up, blah, 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 we need to put a 1.5% cost of living adjustment. So now where somebody's $12 an hour, it's 12, and then we figure out 1.5% more, so we've raised the base up. The other option is that when you have your senior employees that are so-called the red line, because I took an arbitrary number when I put the scale together for you, from the bottom of the grade to the top of the grade, I used the 20% value. Now granted, the higher up you go, the more flexibility that, or the more money that 20% gives you. But, you know, we could make the decision, okay, well, that 20% is too tight. Maybe we need to make the top of the scale 24%, 25%. So you just rewrite the top of it. The cost of living would rewrite the bottom of the scale, bringing everybody's pay up.
which is what he was talking about earlier in the sheriff department.
Yes.
If the increase was there, it's gonna bring the whole scale up.
Yes.
Brings the
Because
bottom
they have
and
a
the top
set
up.
scale based on certifications and everything.
Brings
so-
the bottom and the top up.
It would bring the bottom and the top up, the cost of living. So if you, it is my understanding of it, if it's at, it would bring, you say a cost of living, it's 1.5%.
It's gonna take the bottom up 1.5, it's gonna take the top up 1.5,
Right, that's
absolutely,
what I was
yes, ma'am.
telling-
But
No,
when
you're
we
right.
give them those raises or those merit raises, isn't a bucket for them to do what they choose?
So if you do a cost of living, you can do across the board, right? Because
Right.
it's a cost of living
Yeah, right.
raise. So it would be like how we did back in the past with Judge Shiflett, it would be across the board. If you're just changing, like what he was saying, widen that range to where those red line people would have an opportunity to still gain or earn merit raises. But as you don't really know what you're working with until you figure out, one, the revenue side of it, but two, you're operating. You figure out what is necessary in order for them to operate, and then you have this little pool, and you can decide from there what you wanna do with it. If it's enough, if it's even enough, because you're gonna have insurance increase
That's right.
by 5% probably. You're gonna have to make the decision on that. Do you want to fully, that's a great benefit for all the county employees, especially with, there's employees that don't make that much money. And that's expensive, and so to pay for insurance. So I know in past years, they had an option to say, okay, we're gonna have the employees pay this much of insurance, or we're either going to provide it fully funded. So you have all these different, retirement's gonna change, all these rates are gonna change, and we have to take those into consideration. And after you do all of that, then you have this little pool, and you say, okay, this is how much we have. Is that enough to give a 1.5% cost of living? Might not even have enough money to do that.
Because
And
what
we
she had-
went to where we are, excuse me, cause she was out of the room. We were talking about,
Yes, ma'am.
we were talking about marginal and satisfactory, and he mentioned that the cutoff he thought would be, I think marginal is 5, 6 below, you said.
6 and below shouldn't be
6 and below
considered.
shouldn't be considered. So that's when I asked the question about the sheriff department. If you give them that amount and they decide that they wanna do it, like they did last year, you're giving everybody something then.
Well, it's their
Even the people
structure,
that
that's
are
just the way they're
below
set up.
6.
If you were
But
to
it's their
do-
structure, I think it's just the way they're set up.
Yeah, and you would have to change policy guidelines too, because the policy does not state that. If you're going to be restricted, that needs to be stated in a
That's
policy.
what I was getting to at the other meeting. At what point are we restrictive? Because we didn't have anything in writing in policy. You know, when I asked this at a meeting or two ago, do we say you don't get anything if you're below a 6? Remember,
Yeah.
they said don't put any restriction on it.
Right, and so then how are you to, even if it's in policy, they could say, you know what, I'm not following this policy. They have that, I mean,
The
Johnson
elected
lets you know
officials?
that very often, right? Now, it's not playing nice in the sandbox together, and you might take that into consideration for next year. Well, they didn't abide by this, what we said, and so maybe we won't be giving that department, you know, as much money or whatever. That's where you have that available to you guys, but I don't know, you put it in a policy and then you also have the con to that, then everybody's gonna, if, you know, not everybody, there's gonna be people who are good leaders, but there might be some people who might just be like, I'm gonna give you a 7 no matter what, just so you can get a raise. And because you do have favoritism.
Well,
you know,
and I haven't seen that many, but I saw a few evaluations that it was a 10 in every category.
Yes, I
There's
saw
no,
that too.
there's no way in God's green earth,
That's perfect.
any employee is a 10 in every category. That's just bad management, and I hope you're watching.
Well,
But I think too, Commissioner Walker, the sheriff's department they already had their own structure when we actually brought the salary structure in. It was to try to find and get people up to where they need to be. And I don't think we were still even able to do that quite with the sheriff's department.
We weren't.
Originally, we weren't able to get them up to so that in order to bump their scales up, you know, we're still needing to get them up there, which we still quite haven't.
and I
got
just
there
thought
yet.
about, sometimes I
Yeah.
guess they just have to hire, I mean, even though their scores, I saw some pretty low scores. And I guess they're just taking whatever they can get
Oh,
to
yeah.
fill a position, you know.
They have.
Well,
And until we
especially
get the
like in
salaries
the
where
jail,
they're
they
supposed to,
gotta
we
have
can
a
actually
warm
do that.
body in there because of the jail standards.
Okay.
So,
You know, and they
But-
just had to, I mean, one had already quit and then they had to fire another.
I guess I saw the same thing in Road and Bridge too.
because we're not comparing apples to apples with the other pay
No.
scale versus the sheriff
Okay.
pay scale, we kinda have to kinda get it.
All
And
right.
they have that
better.
flexibility. Y'all always budget 10,000 extra dollars in their line item. So they have the amount that they pay their employees, and then we always budget an extra 10 grand on top of that. Because they do, they have the in and out, or they have the years of service. I mean, they have a humongous budget, and they have a ton of employees underneath them. And so that was just,
But in what the statement that you made, Judge, we were talking about that, and somebody interpreted that they heard you say anything below an 8, you know, we couldn't get a raise. And I said, I didn't think I heard that. I thought I heard you say anything below marginal and unsatisfactory, you didn't think should
'Cause
qualify.
a 7 and 8 is outstanding, and a 9 and a 10 is exceptional, I think.
And satisfactory is 5 to 6.
I would just be careful with, I mean, I would
Or
really
7.
think it through because, private and
Well,
public
I
are-
mean, and if we put it in words and we make it a policy this year, then next year you're gonna have a whole bunch of 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s.
Exactly.
And I get that. But again, that's bad management.
Well, so I mean, it should be up to the manager, if they're not doing it this time, you know, just
Well,
shouldn't get that
But
money
the thing
next
of it
year
is,
for.
they're
for-
elected officials and you can't do
Well,
a thing with.
Some of our
Well, they
elected
could be-
officials and
You
some
can.
of
They
our
cannot get that
department
merit
heads
for that department, because
Yeah.
they abused it to.
haven't been trained how to
It
do
could still
that.
be.
Yeah.
Well,
That's-
that was not to delay y'all, but it was so many ways that you
Valid
could
question.
work this system.
Yeah.
Okay, that even though that we have, you know, it's so many ways you can work it. Because we even talked about, and I just went blank, but never mind. We even talked about how people take the money that you allocate as merit raises, and then it becomes this personal thing. That's my friend, so I'm gonna give it all to her. And the other people not receive anything. We saw that today in some of these numbers.
There's
So-
favoritism, but you know, this structure is a good thing.
But
I
if it
mean,
wasn't, you know,
Thank you.
it is a very.
It's a good thing.
It's a very
But
good
we just
thing.
saying things we've learned about it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
how you address those issues.
But in comparison to what we were before, I feel, I mean, it was scary because it's a lot of, you know, it's change. Change is hard for some people, a lot of people, including myself. But it really gives you a basis of, okay, this is where I can grow. This is where I can go to. Let me work towards something, not just, oh, I'm automatically gonna get this or that, you know. And so it gives everyone to where everyone's on the same page. I mean, everyone knows, okay, now this is red line. You're done unless you get the cost of living where you increase. So there's a lot.
we could even
Or
budget
you
for
even
training.
have the option of, like I said earlier, instead of having a 20% range,
Right.
you can bump that to 25 or 28.
You can do that without even giving increases. Like 1 year, you can change
Agreed.
that thing. And
Agreed.
then you have, so it doesn't harm anything, but.
So if you
just-
do have somebody that's doing a satisfactory job, you've elevated the range so they can be rewarded to a degree.
Yeah, and that wouldn't cost you a thing. It just gives employees some, you know.
A direction to go.
And,
Yes, sir.
and as a county, we could even go toward, you know, budgeting for this coming year for some training for actual management type evaluations.
Yeah.
So they understand the benefits of giving a true evaluation
They'll
of
do
how
it.
to help the employee grow and everything else, so.
Yeah.
I know a guy with a background at that who'd probably do it for free.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, one other question, I'm gonna let you go. The blue packets did, and I guess I should ask Ms. Lucy that, because I don't see the evaluations in there, because what I questioned was, I know that some of the management didn't give clear direction to the employee, and then you scored me low, but you haven't told me what, you know, it was very vague, what you told me to do. Or you weren't even here for 4 or 5 months, and I worked on my own, and, you know, but I just thought I'd bring that up. But I don't know if it changed this year, the method.
We get to respond. We get, as an employee, the employee, if I understand you right, the employee has to sign off on the evaluation, saying that they've either read through it or their boss talked to them and went over it. But then there's a place in there where you can have a response.
But if they're afraid to respond,
See, I went over the evaluations with my employees.
She
and then
made
I-
us respond.
And then I let them take it home with them overnight so they could think about it, talk to their spouse if they wanted to.
well, you're a good leader. Some of them just say, sign it. And
I'm not gonna do that. Cause I want honest feedback from them.
Well, that's where a
Listen,
good
they won't
training, you
feedback.
know, probably
Yeah, I
just a
think that-
mandatory training or something that we
Well,
could push through.
Very beneficial.
And even though we do the training, at the end of the day, you're still going to have some that are in a leadership role that don't have the courage to be honest with their employees.
But at least
And
we gave them the
sometimes
tools
you
to try
have,
to
the
do.
reason you have mediocre employees, you can look real quick and find out you got a mediocre manager, whether they're elected or a department head.
That's right.
okay.
We have had a thorough discussion. We are behind the times. Is there a motion?
I move we adjourn.
I second it.
I have a first and I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned.